Padme hurries down the hallway towards her office. She needs to spend some time reviewing the newest bills the Senate has put on the floor. Even though the Republic is trying to come to terms with the fact that Palpatine was a Sith, that doesn't stop the intrigue of politics, or the amount of work she has to do. If anything, it's just gotten worse these past few days. Many senators are pushing to add positions, so as to avoid a repeat of what just occurred. Personally, she supports it. Fighting for giving the Chancellor less power, as well as navigating the elections and supporting Senator Mon Mothma, is taking up all her time. "Padme!" calls a familiar voice. She turns to see Bail Organa walking towards her, his expression troubled. "Yes, Bail, what is it?" she asks, motioning him into her office. "I have received a recording along with a group of other senators," he explains. It seems the Jedi Council has not been entirely truthful when they confirmed Count Dooku's statement that he is being watched by Jedi. Padme can feel a chill run through her. She knows very well that Anakin is no longer a Jedi, despite Dooku's claim to the contrary. Is it possible that someone uncovered this, and if so, will it destroy the peace process? "Explain," she frowns. "What do you mean?" "It would be better if you watched this," Bail replies, pulling out a holodisc and turning it on. The hologram immediately comes to life. Dooku walks into the line of sight of the recording, followed by three figures. The first is a black armored man, walking with a familiar gait. The second is also armored, and the third, shorter than the others, is wearing a hood. On the other side, Lux Bonteri enters. Padme restrains a gasp. She'd heard rumors that after Dooku split the Separatists, Onderon had joined Dooku, and Lux had been chosen as a senator to replace his mother, but until now, she hadn't known any of the truth. "Greetings, Count," Lux greets him, bowing respectfully. There's a distinct note of mild surprise in his voice, which she doesn't miss. "Senator Bonteri," replies Dooku, "I am sure you know why we are here. The situation has become more serious than I'd initially imagined." "Yes, of course," answers Lux, his gaze turning towards the shorter figure. He tips his head slightly, and from the angle, she can see him smile slightly. "The last time I saw you with my mother's friend, I wouldn't have expected you to show up next in the company of the Count." His tone carries amusement, along with some familiarity. Padme swallows. It's Ahsoka. She knows it is. "Nor would I," the painfully familiar voice answers. "At last, not until a month ago." A month. Yes, it's been a month since she heard Anakin was expelled from the Order. She's relieved that Ahsoka is still with him. Her and Obi-Wan both. Together, they can help Anakin, at least as much as he'll let them. Lux chuckles quietly, turning towards the other two figures. "And I'm guessing these are General Sky." "Lord Vader," the black-armored man smoothly interrupts before motioning to his companion. "This is Lord Fide." She did not expect that to be Obi-Wan's Sith name. She didn't even realize that he would get one. Lux doesn't even blink at the interruption. "As you wish," he murmurs, turning. "Come with me. We have a lot to discuss." They walk out of sight, and the recording ends. Padme sits back, the implications dawning on her. Dooku will be seen as a liar if word gets out that Anakin is no longer a Jedi and is going by a Sith name. People will put two and two together, and the situation will get out of control. This has the potential to become very, very bad. "What are they saying?" she finally asks, looking over at Bail's worried brown eyes. "You know who they are, don't you?" he queries instead. "They are going by Sith names. They aren't Jedi. I heard that some senators are pushing for us to stop peace talks with Dooku, because he clearly lied to us. If we have no way of knowing what he's doing, then we can't trust him." Padme nods tiredly. Another mess to repair. Just another day of political chaos. "What's new?" "I know who they are," she admits. "I heard from Master Windu that Anakin was expelled from the Order. I don't know the details about what happened, but if word gets out..." Her voice trails off, and she shrugs helplessly.
I'm going to see if I can get a hold of him to find out what's going on. You knew? Bail demands, surprised. How did you find out? Padme winces slightly. I talked to Masters Yoda and Windu after they informed the Senate about Palpatine being a Sith Lord. They told me that there with problems in the Order before Yoda said that Anakin had been expelled, but he was with his Padawan and Master Kenobi. You could have told me, Bail reproves quietly, and she gives him an apologetic smile which feels more like a grimace. Yes, she could have, but she didn't. She needs to correct that. If the Jedi already know about her marriage, there's no reason why Bail, one of her closest friends, can't know as well. She slowly lets out a breath. I'll call him now. Hopefully he'll answer, and we can get this straightened out. He'll probably have to say something. Give a public statement of some sort. Hesitantly, she pulls out her comlink and calls Anakin. Padme? Anakin's sleepy voice comes through. She hadn't realized he was sleeping, or she would have waited. Too late now. What's going on? I'm here with Bail, she tells him quietly. The beginning of your meeting with Senator Bonteri from Onderon was recorded. Some of the senators believe Dooku was lying about Jedi being with him. This isn't going to just blow over. You need to do something about it. Oh, great, mutters Anakin. Another mess to attend to. She hears him sigh. Send me the details, and I'll get to it in a couple hours. It's probably time to get up anyways. Okay, she answers softly. I'll talk to you later. Anakin hums in response, so she hangs up, turning her attention to Bail while she hastily sends Anakin all the information he needs. She owes Bail to be honest with him now, especially if they're going to be trying to bring peace to the galaxy. They need to trust each other, and the information she possesses could become important later on, though she hopes it won't be. I need to tell you something, she confesses quietly, hoping this is the right path to take. Sidious did it, rages Anakin, blue eyes flashing with anger. I know he did. Obi-Wan sighs and resists the urge to rub his temple. Yes, Anakin, you said that already. 3 times, offers Ahsoka, slumping back in her chair. We need to prepare a statement of some sort, Obi-Wan points out. For all our sakes, I think I should do it. I can get the media to listen to me. They respect me. The senators will at least listen to me. Yeah, we got it, grumbles Anakin half-heartedly. You have a way with words. Go on, negotiator. He waves a hand at Obi-Wan. Go prepare your speech. Obi-Wan resists the urge to roll his eyes at his former Padawan's theatrics, and does as he suggested. After drafting a list of points to cover, he soon realizes that the best way to deal with the situation is by telling him it won't look good on the Jedi Council, but trying to cover up will be even worse. Right now, he's most concerned with Dooku's image. If enough senators feel he can't be trusted, any attempts at peace will fail, and for the sake of the galaxy, he must do his best to prevent that from happening. Less than an hour later, he's being broadcast live on the HoloNews. I have heard some of the rumors going around, and I feel it is my duty to put them to rest, he declares, voice calm despite his inner anxiety. It has come to my attention that the beginning of a private meeting between Count Dooku and Senator Bonteri was recorded. He pauses for a moment to collect his thoughts. It is important for you to know that the Sith Order is not the enemy of the Republic. It was formed as part of a private disagreement with the Jedi centuries ago, and has no bearing on the fate of the galaxy. Shortly before Dooku spoke to the Senate, he approached General Skywalker to obtain his assistance in killing Sidious. Later, I joined him.
The current situation is a bit complex, he admits, but the Jedi Council expelled General Skywalker for reasons which are entirely private. I chose to join him. We may not be officially Jedi, but we are still holding ourselves to the same code of honor. I am aware there are concerns regarding our association with Count Dooku, and I want the galaxy to know that we will never betray the Republic. We swore an oath to protect it, and we will uphold that promise no matter what doing so will entail. Dooku has formed a new Sith Order to repair some of the many flaws in the Jedi Order. And as a vote of confidence, I did choose to join with General Skywalker and his Padawan. But this has no bearing on our determination to bring peace to the galaxy. Ending the speech, Obi-Wan sighs quietly. He's done all he can, and now it's up to court of public opinion. He can only hope that his supports will rule over his detractors. The galaxy has come so far, and it would be a disaster for everything to fall apart just because of secrets kept buried. And maybe he made a mistake revealing so much to the public, but right now, he thinks he made the right choice. That, he supposes, is what counts most.
Ahsoka is on her way to the clones' barracks when the alarm goes off. She hadn't been expecting it, and the sudden noise makes her jump. Sucking in a quick, moderately calming breath, she glances around to see what the current situation is just as her COMM link beeps. Assault ships incoming, Rex's voice crackles through. They didn't ask for clearance, so they aren't ours. We're under attack. With a muttered curse, Ahsoka whirls, sprinting back towards the mansion where she knows the others probably are waiting. When she gets there, they're gathered in the courtyard. Dooku's face is impassive, but she can see some tension in his shoulders. Anakin and Obi-Wan are both in their armor, and why they're wearing it is anybody's guess. If they're under attack by Sidious, he already knows they're both here. We don't know if they're here to kill or capture us, Anakin comments grimly, and Ahsoka represses a shudder. This is fine. She's fought in the war for long enough to handle a bunch of droids, because surely, they're sending droids to face them. She's not at all afraid of the homicidal, probably mentally unstable Sith Lord behind the plan. No. Not at all. She's a Jedi. But none of her mental reassurances can stave off the spike of fear which races down her spine. Unless we have reason to suspect otherwise, assume the worst, replies Obi-Wan, the dry sarcasm in his tone somehow being conveyed over the vocoder. He crosses his arms, head turning to scan the area. For her part, Ahsoka shifts back and forth, desperately hoping to get some word, anything from the clone lookout. Now, they wait. The ships aren't landing nearby, probably so they can't be destroyed. They have no way of knowing the extent of the attack, but a report should soon be coming in from the clone scouts. It's been about 10 minutes before their COMM links buzz. General, there's droids on all sides. Rex sounds stressed, much more so than usual. They're closing in rapidly. Grievous and an unidentified commander are with them. Anakin curses, ignoring the look probably of reprimand that Obi-Wan gives him. What's our best option? Obi-Wan demands, turning towards Dooku. Do we stay and fight or evacuate while there's time? Dooku sets his jaw. We cannot flee from the fight, or they will follow us. We have the advantage for now. We know the terrain, so we should have a better chance of controlling the outcome. I have called for reinforcements, but for now, we have ourselves, the clones, and our own security droids. We're splitting up, Anakin interjects. Each of us should be in charge of one of the sides of the battle. If we can herd them away or back, we'll have a better chance of success. I agree, states Obi-Wan. Ahsoka shifts, hands inching towards her lightsabers. We must protect ourselves and the clones at all costs. They're all we have against Sidious. Skywalker, you take that side, orders Dooku. I'll remain here and meet the forward advance. Kenobi, go to that side. He pauses, motioning. Tenno, take the other. Okay, she replies, I'll take the clones under fives. Without waiting for a reply, she races away, calling into her COMM for the clones to join her. If they move fast enough, she knows exactly where the best strategic location will be for them to hold the defense line. B. Blaster fire echoes all around her, but Ahsoka ignores it, listening to the Force's warnings as she hacks droids to pieces right and left. They aren't falling back. For now, they're holding the line steady with minimal casualties. She counts it as a success. Anakin really did wonders with the droids they had shipped in for defensive purposes. They're so many times better than their counterparts, even if they still tend to make goofy statements at times. Grievous! Exclaims one of the clones from behind her, and Ahsoka turns, seeing that the droid general is indeed making his way towards her. Well, this is bad. The others are all busy, so she'll have to deal with him alone. On the plus side, she doesn't see any more incoming droids from this side, so maybe the 100 or so left are all. The stamp of Grievous' feet comes to a halt when he's about 200 feet from her. He ignites 2 blue lightsabers, standing to his full height and laughing maniacally as he stalks closer. She raises her own lightsabers defensively in front of her, standing in position and awaiting his approach. She's fought him before, so she knows his style. He's not a good fighter, but with his 4 flailing arms, he's hard to defend against. She knows well that defense is the best strategy with him, but that's something she's never been good at doing. Maybe she can't defeat him, but she can hold him off until someone else can help. Fives, see if any of the others are free to come help me tame Grievous, she calls, intentionally loudly, trying to aggravate him. From experience, she knows that if the droid general is mad, he'll be sloppier. Right away, Commander, the clone replies. Grievous snarls, anger lashing out into the Force. His eyes narrow threateningly behind the masked contraption on his face. He moves several paces closer before stopping. His arms split in 2, and he withdraws and ignites 2 more lightsabers, both with green blades. She tenses as he moves closer. Her blue eyes narrow as she springs towards him, their lightsabers clashing. She leaps backwards, ducking a swing towards her head and stabbing at the general's arm. A blue blade blocks her, and then she's dodging sideways to avoid being impaled. Ahsoka resolutely throws herself forward, stabbing towards Grievous, trying to hit him somewhere, anywhere. He steps back to avoid her blows. Snarling, he begins spinning the 4 lightsabers so fast they look like a blur and stalks forward. Wariness creeps into Ahsoka as she slowly backs away. Then, he attacks her, slashing at her right and left. Everywhere she looks, another blade is swinging towards her to end her life. Clenching her jaw, Ahsoka ducks a green blade which would have taken off her left arm, before swinging to meet the 2 blue ones aiming for her head. They remain in that position, neither able to break the saber lock. Cackling, Grievous raises a leg grabbing her neck in its claw-like mechanical foot before throwing her hard over his head. She tumbles across the ground, hitting it hard enough for all the air to be knocked out of her body. Laughing maniacally, Grievous storms towards her prone body, raising his lightsabers for a killing blow. Ahsoka rapidly rolls over as the blades are embedded in the ground where she was just laying and represses a shudder. Reaching out her hands, she calls her sabers back to her, igniting them simultaneously with a hiss. Their lightsabers crash together once more, and she vaguely wonders how much longer she can hold out against him without assistance, especially since the clones are unwilling to shoot lest they mistakenly hit her. She shoves his lightsabers away, spinning to the side before leaping into the air and landing on his shoulders for a millisecond before she's jumping as far from him as she can get. Grievous spins around and starts marching towards her again, but she still has the time to throw a sudden force shove at him. It catches him right in the chest, and he's sent sliding across the ground, all 4 lightsabers cutting deep into the earth as he goes. With a final, pointless ferocious growl, he comes to a stop many yards away. It's not over, she reminds herself, bracing for further action. Ahsoka senses a dark presence approaching, drawing her gaze away from Grievous. Turning, she sees a black-robed figure stalking towards her at a rapid pace. Pausing, he throws back his hood to reveal a red and black-colored Zabruk. Maul. He draws and ignites a double-bladed, red lightsaber with a flourish, yellow eyes narrowing. She swallows nervously. The situation is getting out of control. She can defend herself for a while against Grievous and probably Maul too, but together? Not even a fully trained Jedi Master could do that. Clearly, escape is not an option either. They could easily outrun her, leaving her at a significant disadvantage. Her instincts scream at her to run, because she knows she'll never win. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Dooku are fighting elsewhere. The dumbest thing to do would be to lead Grievous and Mail right towards them, and by default, their secured compound. But there is another way. Hoping she's not making a mistake, Ahsoka reaches out towards Anakin through their bond. "Master!" she shouts, desperation leaking through her shields. "I could use your help right about now." The Zabrak lunges towards her, and she parries his blow, striking towards his chest. He spins his saber with ease, stopping her. Mentally groaning, Ahsoka presses her attack, knowing even as she does, that they are evenly matched. She gets the sinking impression that he's not trying to kill her. For whatever reason, he wants to capture her instead. Their lightsabers clash together, becoming a furious dance of red and green. Neither of them is able to gain the upper hand. A surge of alarm races through her as Grievous deactivates his lightsabers, clipping them all back in place before he charges towards her. The situation must have been discussed ahead of time, because Maul skillfully stops her from scoring a hit on the droid general. He grabs her by the neck, lifting her in the air as Maul rips her lightsabers away. Grievous cackles as Maul takes a hold of her, lightsaber right in front of her neck. If she struggles or even moves too much, she'll be killed, and Ahsoka really doesn't want to know what Anakin will do if that happens. "Go find Skywalker," orders Maul in a clipped tone, "let him know we have something he wants." Despite his rising wave of fury, Anakin knows he can't be stupid. Charging in with his lightsaber blazing will only get Ahsoka killed. No doubt they want to take him prisoner. If that happens, he cannot afford to be weaponless. He smirks behind his mask as he stows away his lightsaber before straightening and leaping down over the barrier behind which he had approached. "No need," his voice rumbles through the vocoder, "I am right here." He narrows his eyes, the dark side surging around him as Maul and Grievous whirl to face him. "Unhand my Padawan." On one condition, Maul replies smoothly, giving Grievous a harsh look to shut him up. "You come with us as a prisoner. If you attempt escape before you are locked in a cell on the command ship, she'll die." He pulls the blade closer, and Anakin doesn't miss the sharp intake of breath from Ahsoka as the heat from the lightsaber singes the skin on her neck. "Don't touch her," Anakin snarls, "if you hurt her, I'll kill you all." "I know," the Sith answers, a bit too haughtily for Anakin's liking before motioning towards Grievous. The droid general stalks towards him, producing a set of cuffs with great relish as he snaps them onto Anakin's wrists. Clenching his jaw, Anakin lets him do it, knowing he'll be able to get them off later, especially as they aren't blocking his connection to the Force. "Give me your lightsaber," snarls Grievous. Anakin shrugs nonchalantly. "I lost it somewhere," he lies. Growling under his breath, Grievous grabs his arm and pulls him away. "Don't worry about me," snips. "I'll be fine," he reassures Ahsoka, meeting her eyes before following Grievous away. They walk to a small shuttle a distance behind the droid lines. Grievous secures Anakin in the back while he orders a battle droid to return to the station. Anakin waits with bated breath. He knows that once he's imprisoned on the ship and Ahsoka is freed, he'll be able to escape. Besides, this will also give him the opportunity to discreetly plant a tracking beacon. No doubt the ship will go directly to Sidious. Once they know where he is, they'll be able to follow and launch an attack of their own. In the minutes spent flying to the command ship, Anakin closes his eyes, slipping into a light meditative trance as he reins in his emotions. He cannot afford any weaknesses right now, and if his fear or anxiety get out of control, he might do something rash. He only hopes that Maul will keep his end of the bargain and free Ahsoka once he's secured. The armor gives him privacy he couldn't otherwise expect, and he's grateful that Grievous can't see his expression. It would probably give him away. He won't risk Ahsoka's life, but he will risk his own. He has no intention of being dragged to Sidious in chains, and if he dies trying to escape, then so be it. All too soon, Anakin finds himself behind a ray shield with two droids guarding outside. The prisoner is secured, Grievous rasps into a COMM link. Good, Maul replies, I'm returning to the ship. Set the course for the base. My master wishes to see him. No word about Ahsoka, so Anakin reaches out along their bond. Are you alright? Yes, he just let me go, the Padawan answers with no small amount of relief or irritation. What will you do now, Sky Guy? Anakin smirks. Leave that to me. I have a plan. Tell the others not to be concerned. Of course you do. He can almost see her rolling her eyes and snorts quietly as he pulls back from their bond, letting it go silent once more. He waits another minute before using the Force to rip the cuffs off his wrists. If Maul thought they would hold him, he was sorely mistaken. Perhaps he hadn't counted on Anakin smuggling his lightsaber aboard. Honestly, he was surprised the droids who checked him for weapons hadn't noticed it. Turning his back on the hall, he crouches down, pulling off his boot and tugging his lightsaber out of its hiding spot before whirling and yanking the guard droids into the ray shield to electrocute them. He knows it will only be a matter of minutes before they find out he's escaping. That will have to do. Igniting the lightsaber, Anakin stabs the blade into the back wall of his cell, cutting a circular hole. If he's right, this should go right to space. Bracing himself, he finishes the circle, which is almost immediately sucked away into space. He instantly activates the magnets in his boots using the Force to hold himself to the floor of the cell. When Dooku told him about them, he thought it was unnecessarily complex. Now, however, he's grateful. If not for the various features on his armor, he wouldn't be able to make such a daring escape. Keeping his fingers clenched around his lightsaber, Anakin moves to the hole, carefully edging himself out and into the vacuum of space. The respirator in his armor is on, but he knows it won't last him long. He'll have to move extremely fast if he doesn't want to die. He hastily withdraws a tracking beacon and secures it to the hull of the ship using the Force before moving in the general direction of the escape pods. He's been on enough Separatist ships to locate them. It only takes him a few minutes. Walking on the outside of a ship is really a fantastic idea. He cuts his way through an airlock before dropping into the hull and using the Force to close the doors over it. No use getting sucked back into space after all. He doesn't hear any alarms, but he knows it will only be a matter of seconds. He races towards the escape pods, pausing to secure another tracking beacon out of the camera's range of vision in case the first is discovered. Halt! Yells a patrolling battle droid as he approaches. Without breaking his stride, he slices through the pair, darting around the final corner just as the alarms go off. I'm doing better than I thought I would, he mutters under his breath, leaping into an escape pod and closing it. He pushes the button, ejecting himself from the ship. All he can do now is hope that they don't find him or think to bring him back using a tractor beam. This is his only chance of escape, and he has little desire to be caught. His heart is racing as the escape pod plummets downwards, pulled by the gravity of Sereno. He can barely breathe, offering up a silent prayer that he is not recaptured. He has little desire to face Sidious without the others. He has no delusions that he can defeat the Sith Lord alone, and he knows he'll fail with Grievous, Maul, and Savage being there. It feels like hours, when, in reality, it's probably only about 10 minutes, before the pod crashes onto the planet's surface. Anakin hastily climbs out and scans his surroundings. Luckily, he only landed a few miles from Dooku's mansion. He can walk back on foot without any difficulty. Unwilling to stick around lest the Separatists send forces to retrieve him, he sets off at a brisk pace, following the Force in his bond with Obi-Wan. It takes him no more than an hour before he's walking through the remains of the droid army near the entrance. He smirks seeing the droids laying strewn all over the ground with no visible damage. Probably Sith lightning then. Definitely Dooku's handiwork. He'll have to commend Dooku on the strategy when he sees him again. General Skywalker. It's good to see you back, sir. Rex's voice pulls him from his thoughts, and he turns, a half smile on his face though it can't be seen. It wasn't hard to escape from them, he replies shrugging. They were in a hurry to leave and didn't check me properly for weapons. I managed to get 2 tracking beacons on the ship. Track the signal. We need to know where they're headed. Yes, sir, Rex answers, the others are inside. He nods his thanks and walks the rest of the way to the entrance, opening the front door and striding in. I wondered how long it would take you to show up, Obi-Wan quips, smirking at him as he steps through the entrance. Anakin snorts. It would have taken far longer if they had gotten into hyperspace before I escaped. I'll be sure to thank Dooku for equipping my armor with magnetic boots and a respirator whenever I see him later. No need, says Dooku smoothly as he appears around the corner. I'm right here, and your thanks is accepted, Skywalker. I'm glad you are back unharmed. Where's Ahsoka? Queries Anakin. Her absence is glaringly obvious. She's overseeing cleanup, Obi-Wan answers. We need a plan, he adds a moment later. Sidious will not stop. He failed now, so he'll come back even better prepared. Anakin nods in agreement. And that's why I attached tracking beacons to the ship. Instead of letting him come to us, we'll go to him. Anakin swears in Hutus, letting his head fall forward and hit the table with a resounding thud. He feels the resigned amusement from Obi-Wan. Dooku lets out a long sigh, but he doesn't protest this time. I cannot believe it, he practically moans. He's been on Korriban this whole time. It was so obvious and the last place they would ever have suspected. Or at least that's where the tracking beacon ended up, Obi-Wan adds dryly. True enough, Anakin agrees, looking up at him. What will we do now? We go to him, Dooku answers calmly. If we choose the time and place of the battle, we will have a greater chance of success. This time, we will be better prepared. If we aren't walking into a trap that is, chimes in Ahsoka, frowning, which I think is highly likely. Do you really think that no one noticed the tracking beacons? Even if Sidious is luring us there, we'd still be better off, because we'll stand a better chance, argues Anakin. If we wait, we'll only push off the inevitable. He has a point, Obi-Wan concurs, looking at Dooku, who has a contemplative expression on his face. Yes, the Count murmurs, we need to go to Korriban. We should take all of our forces. This is a do-or-die mission. Sidious must be stopped before he can do further damage to the galaxy. I don't know much about the planet, but I am assuming that he is located in one of the Sith temples there, so we need to keep in mind that the dark side will be overwhelmingly strong. Anakin shifts uneasily. He has little desire to go to a dark side planet, but he knows that Dooku is right. If they can make a strategic plan and take everything into account, they might actually stand a chance. He'll have rigged up a security system, right? Queries Obi-Wan, continuing before anyone can respond. We can program our battle droids to enter and take it down. Arto can help them. Now you put your faith in him, Anakin teases, unable to resist making the joke. That droid has its uses, his former master admits, but by no means can we rely on it to do everything for us. It can be used as part of a larger plan where it doesn't have a major role like you always give it. Anakin huffs. R2 deserves it, he replies. He has saved my life many times. He's been well programmed and has more creativity than the average droid. You'll probably never agree with each other on that, Ahsoka interjects before Obi-Wan can even begin to formulate a retort. Master Kenobi has a good idea, Dooku points out, but we need more. I have no doubt that Grievous, Maul, and Savage will be there, so we must take their presence into account. Can we arrive without being noticed? Ahsoka asks. There's a pause, as the others glance at one another. Finally, Dooku shakes his head. It is very unlikely. The majority of the remaining Separatist fleet is likely blockading the planet. We need to arrive prepared to fight a space and ground battle. That is not at all discouraging, Anakin deadpans. All right. Let's carry on. Should we split up when going there? All of us will be needed to confront Sidious. I don't think we should risk the chance that someone gets held up, especially not you, Obi-Wan answers. The three of us couldn't defeat Sidious when we confronted him last time, but now, we've trained and practiced working as a team. Besides, we have Ahsoka with us. The main battle will be on the ground. Ahsoka reminds them Rex and Cody may be able to handle whatever space resistance we meet. It's probably more important to get on the planet, than worry about how we'll get off. If we can't defeat Sidious, we won't be leaving anyways, and if we succeed, it will be easy to shut down the droid army. Obi-Wan looks at Dooku as if to say, she has a point. Anakin can't help but feel a surge of pride. This is his Padawan, talking like an experienced adult. The Clone Wars forced her to grow up fast, but her ideas are excellent. That's a good point, Snips, Anakin tells her, giving her a grin. He senses a hint of embarrassment at being the center of attention, but it's quickly dispelled. Whatever happens, Obi-Wan says after a moment of quiet. We cannot let ourselves be blasted out of space before we can land. We are the last hope for the galaxy. The Jedi will not be able to defeat Sidious without Anakin's help. The silence after his words is solemn. This is about more than them now. It's about the galaxy as a whole. If they fail, they will doom the galaxy. The answer is simple. They can't fail, no matter what happens and no matter who has to be sacrificed for that to come about. Anakin forces back his immediate fear at the prospect. He can't dwell on the possibility of losing Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, or Dooku. His own life doesn't concern him as much. All at once, he remembers Ahsoka's vision. Maybe he's destined to die in the fight with Sidious. He won't mention it to the others. He doubts they would agree, and they might even try to do something different which could get them killed. No. If someone must die, it would be best to be him. A twinge of pain runs through him when he thinks about Padme. She would be devastated if he died, but if it's between him and the galaxy, he knows what she would choose. Does anyone have the footage of the fight with Sidious in the Senate? Obi-Wan asks. No, replies Anakin after a moment's thought. I think only the Council has it, so we'd have to ask them. Obi-Wan quickly shakes his head. Our memories will have to suffice. Ahsoka has never seen Sidious in combat. Perhaps you could show her the fight, so she will know better what we are up against. In the meantime, Dooku and I will work on possible plans. Anakin glances at Ahsoka and shrugs. I don't mind, he answers, rising from the table and motioning for her to follow. We must remember that Sidious will be fighting much more powerfully on Korriban, Dooku warns as they turn to the next room. The dark side will make him an even more dangerous opponent, but we can use the power to our advantage as well. I will remember, Anakin assures him. He is the chosen one, and while it's always been a burden to carry, the pressure has just increased tenfold, though this time, there are others who will help him bear it. He is probably the only one who can control the dark side better than Sidious, even if he doesn't have nearly as much experience. Whatever he has will have to be enough, and from there, he can improvise. He almost killed Sidious before, so he can do it again. He sits on the rug in the middle of the living room floor in a meditative posture opposite Ahsoka. He opens their bond almost completely to enable him to transmit the memory, before slipping along the currents of the Force, into a light trance. He senses when she's with him and lets the images flash into her mind. As the duel finishes playing, Anakin lets himself drift further into the Force. He rarely meditates, but now, he's hoping to gain some type of insight into their upcoming fight. There are so many factors, and it's so important, that he can only hope that everything will go in their favor. He hopes that he won't lose himself to the dark side on Korriban, but over time, he's become far more used to using both sides of the Force. He doesn't feel guilt over touching the dark side, which was originally one of the biggest things holding him back. Ahsoka lays on the ground, trying in vain to inch backwards and away from the red blade arching down towards her neck. Her lightsaber is too far away for her to reach it in time. The entire world begins fading, just as a blue blur slams into the ruby blade. Anakin is roughly pulled from his peaceful meditation, inhaling sharply. He rarely gets visions when he looks for them, but Dooku had shown him how Sith use the dark side to see a possible future. As horrified as he is by what he just saw, he can take comfort in the knowledge that he didn't see Ahsoka die. They've all had many close calls before and escaped alive. Hopefully, this time will be no different. He opens his eyes to find Ahsoka looking at him curiously. "What is it?" he asks her. "You were just drawing on the dark side in your meditation," she notes. "Did you have a vision of a future?" He nods silently. "You were nearly killed on Korriban," he replies, "but if that is the worst of the potential future that we are facing by taking this path, then we should do it." "I agree." "Come on, Master," she urges, standing up. "Let's see if Master Obi-Wan and Count Dooku have concocted a plan for us to attack Korriban." The Sith homeworld of Korriban isn't much to look at from space. It seems as dry and desolate as Tatooine in Anakin's opinion. "Cody, have your men cover us," Anakin orders over the COMM link. "We're going in." "Yes, sir," Cody replies briskly. "You heard the general. Prepare for a forward assault and defend the ships." Anakin tightens his grip on the controls of the shuttle, Ahsoka sitting next to him in the co-pilot's seat. Obtaining a group of starfighters for a division of clones was harder than they'd initially expected, taking them 2 extra days of waiting. It's been 4 days since Sidious attacked them on Sereno, and Anakin fears that they may be too late. It's not impossible that the Sith Lord himself has already escaped, leaving the others behind. Scans indicated that there are many life forms on the planet near one of the abandoned Sith temples, so it is there that Anakin and the others assume Sidious is hiding. After sending a scout ahead, they took shuttles equipped with proper shielding and weapons before setting out for Korriban. While the 4 of them are located on one ship along with a number of battle droids, the clones split into 3 groups. 1, under Cody, is being the air defense to allow them to safely land with minimal resistance. Rex and Fives are each leading a group to the surface which will be joining them in their ground assault. The final showdown is about to begin. "They're sending vulture droids out to attack us, Master," warns Ahsoka. "I can see that, Snips," he replies, swerving violently to avoid the fire before plunging down to the planet's surface. "If you could please try to avoid crashing or getting us killed, that would be appreciated," Obi-Wan calls from the hold, where he's helping fire at their pursuers. "And don't forget that Count Dooku isn't exactly the most likely candidate to appreciate your maneuvers." "Just saving our lives again, Master," Anakin quips back, diving so suddenly that Ahsoka nearly yelps with surprise. 3 of the vulture droids behind them explode in balls of fire as Obi-Wan scores direct hits. Free of immediate pursuit, Anakin focuses on finding a suitable landing place as quickly as possible. The ruins of the Sith Temple loom ahead of him in the valley as the ship flies low over the surface to minimize risk of detection. Anakin swerves, coming around to land on a small plateau which provides enough shielding to hopefully protect them from any air attacks. The ramp opens, and they all disembark, standing outside the ship and looking towards the temple where Sidious is hiding. "I can see why you're considered a good pilot, Skywalker, but I'm impressed you're still alive to talk about it," Dooku comments after a moment, expression bordering on amused. Anakin grins at him, noting silently that this is the closest the Count has come to teasing him since Anakin joined him. "What can I say?" he retorts. "I have excellent luck. And let us hope it's enough to get us off this planet alive," Obi-Wan adds. "The others should be here any moment," Ahsoka mutters, shifting. "I hate this planet." "It's a dark side planet," Anakin reminds her. "Of course, you hate it." And truthfully, he hates it too. The darkness is creeping around him, almost as though it's a sentient being. He shudders, tightening his shields to hold it off. By mutual agreement, they had decided to go dressed in Jedi robes, as a symbolic stand against the Sith. He can freely admit that Dooku looks odd, but the rightness of it is striking. Seconds later, the other ships land nearby, and the clones and battle droids march out to join them. "What's the plan now?" asks Rex, joining them in looking towards the temple in the distance. "We sneak in," Anakin replies, a look of mischief and determination dancing in his eyes. "But first, send in the battle droids with R2. They can work to take down the security system and prevent them from spotting our approach." Rex turns, giving the orders, and the battle droids march away with R2 rolling along behind them. Now, they wait. When the droids are in position, provided they can enter without a problem, then they will launch their attack. "General Kenobi," Cody's voice crackles through the comms. "We're on the planet, and we lost 3 men in the battle. Should we initiate the distraction plan?" Anakin winces, sorrow filling him over the fallen men. "Wait for 20 minutes, Obi-Wan tells him. "The droids are not yet in position." "Yes, sir," he replies. Anakin slowly exhales. "This plan better work," he mutters. They'd stayed up late into the night working it out with the limited information they had. It was approximately close to none, actually. For the most part, they were relying on Dooku's guesses for how Sidious would have reacted and protected himself. As they wait, Anakin knows they all have one thought: please let this work. It's their only chance. He goes over the plan again, checking and double-checking for problems. They'd decided to send in the battle droids, which Anakin had carefully reprogrammed, to infiltrate, take down the security, and shut down the droids there. To aid in the intrusion, Cody and his men would launch an air attack, bombing parts of the Sith temple and creating a distraction. Once the droids are in position, the Jedi, or Sith, rather, and remaining clones will approach on foot before launching their assault. Everything seems completely sound, but he has no doubt that it will be extremely hard to succeed. Sidious isn't stupid, and he's bound to have set everything up as a trap. If they can reach him without excessive difficulty, then he's been waiting for them. Maybe, for once, things will go in their favor. B. Attack, Obi-Wan orders, and everyone tenses, watching as the fighters fly low overhead in formation, headed straight towards the Sith temple on the horizon. Anakin lifts a pair of macro binoculars, watching as they make an overhead pass, bombing a portion of the ruins, careful to avoid anything which will make entering impossible. The ground vibrates from the explosions, the dark side coiling around them. The sound fades away, and the landscape is completely silent once more. "Let's go," Dooku murmurs finally. "We have a distance to cover in a limited window of time." The silence is almost oppressive, the stress beginning to show on all of them. Even Anakin can't think of anything which could lighten the mood. The nearness of the dark side whispering to him is a painful reminder of the power he'll have to use, because he has no delusion that he'll be able to avoid it. It doesn't matter anymore. He is not a Jedi. He's a Sith, and he will bring balance, even within himself. It's what he was always meant to do. They walk for a couple hours before they reach the final ridge. "R2, what's the status?" asks Anakin in a hushed voice as they pause for a short break. The whistles and beeps which come through are incomprehensible to everyone but him. "We are in position," R2 tells him with altogether too much cheer. "I shut down the droid guards, but since the patrols are continuing as normal, no one has noticed the difference." "Who is there?" Anakin demands, frowning. "General Grievous," comes the reply. "And 3 others. The Sith." "Oh," he breathes quietly. "We're coming, R2. Proceed as planned." Anakin exhales slowly before glancing at the others. Grievous and the other 3 are there. "Everything still seems to be on track," he reports. "We must hurry." He picks up his pace, striding resolutely towards the backside of the temple. Though he's shielded himself well, he has no doubt that Sidious knows they're coming. All they can do is try to take the enemy by surprise. "Spread out," instructs Obi-Wan, motioning, and the entire group fans out, approaching stealthily. "We can enter over there," suggests Ahsoka, pointing in the direction of 2 battle droids which are guarding the back entrance. "I would suggest splitting up, but we already decided that wouldn't be the best idea." Anakin shakes his head. "No. We need every last man we've got," he replies. "I agree with her," Dooku adds after a moment of silence as everyone scans the area. "That would be the best option. We aren't as likely to run into resistance there." Obi-Wan nods resolutely. "All right. Let's go." Anakin leads the group, which now includes Cody and most of his men. 3 stayed behind to provide air support if needed to the back entrance. "Let us through," he orders the droids. "Right away, General," the first one replies, stepping aside and opening the door. "They're coming in, Commander," the second reports to R2. No one talks as they walk into the temple, footsteps echoing in the halls. The darkness in here is oppressive. It's strong enough to make Anakin feel physically ill, despite his strong mental shields. They've entered the lion's den with no way of knowing who will emerge alive. All he knows is that no matter the cost, Sidious must die, and his dreams for a Sith Empire with him. Dooku strides further into the temple, scanning ahead with the Force. He can sense Skywalker's tension. He's gripping his unignited lightsaber hilt. The fear he's unwilling to admit to hovers around him faintly. Dooku pushes it away, focusing instead on locating Sidious within the temple. Up ahead, he doesn't sense him, he senses his former Sith apprentice. Halting, he raises a hand, bringing everyone to a halt. "I sense Savage ahead," he warns the others, turning specifically to the clones. "Continue your search of the temple and secure it. Sidious has locked himself deep within the temple. Let us handle the Sith." He reaches out again. Grievous is up ahead as well. Kenobi glances around. "Let's continue," he urges after a moment of heavy silence. The 4 continue, approaching a metal door which has been sealed closed. There's more than one way in, Skywalker decides, after trying in vain to open it. 2 ways, in fact, Dooku corrects him, raising his hands. Once in his grasp, the doors slide open, unable to resist the will of the Force. "Yes," Skywalker concedes. "You were right." He keeps his right hand poised, ready to ignite his lightsaber at a moment's notice. The room beyond is enormous, ceiling stretching up for at least 40 feet, and Dooku immediately knows that it was chosen due to its resemblance to an arena. Inside, Maul and Savage pace back and forth, while Grievous watches them with disdain. At the sound of the door opening, all 3 turn to face the newcomers. This is a test, a challenge. Whoever survives here, will be left to confront Sidious, and they cannot afford to lose a single person. Last time, the Sith was toying with them. This time, he'll be seeking to kill, and Dooku expects that whatever the future holds for the duel, it will end quickly if all 4 of them are there. "Hello there," Kenobi announces with fake cheer in his voice as he strides forward, the first willing to enter the arena. Not to be outdone, Dooku stalks in slightly behind him. "Kenobi," spits Maul. "I have been waiting for you." "My sincerest apologies," Kenobi quips in reply. "I didn't mean to keep you waiting." "Enough talk," growls Grievous, words followed by a hoarse cough. "We didn't come here to socialize with one another." "No, we didn't," agrees Savage, unclipping his double-bladed lightsaber with an unnecessarily dramatic flourish. "This will end with bloodshed," warns Maul. "Surrender now, and perhaps Lord Sidious will show you mercy." "Yes," Skywalker murmurs, feigned casualness in his tone as he steps forward to stand side by side with Kenobi. "It will, but don't be so sure it will be ours." Maul snarls, his double-bladed lightsaber hissing to life. Savage follows him. As one, Dooku and his companions ignite theirs, the glow casting shadows around the dimly lit room. 4 versus 3. Dooku has no doubt that Savage will be the easiest target, having gotten the least training, and Skywalker and Kenobi were some of the finest duelists in the Jedi Order. He can only trust in the Force that they will be fine. Tuning out everything around him, Dooku leaps towards Savage, the blue and red blades clashing together. Speed and efficiency are the most important. They don't have time for useless chatter, not when every second wasted gives Sidious a chance to create a last-minute plan to have the galaxy bowing at his feet. Savage still fights with much of the same brutality he did when Dooku first started training him, though his style has been refined immensely. Unsurprising. Sidious and Maul would have seen to it, but he's still no match for Dooku. He hasn't wielded a lightsaber most of his life, and he certainly hasn't developed a refined style. The Sith's yellow eyes narrow as he swings his lightsaber, trying, in vain, to land a hit. Dooku block him with precision, his blue blade dancing around him, always being in the right place at the right time. Snarling in fury, Savage throws the Force at him, sending him flying backwards. He catches himself, springing to his feet before going on the offensive. Too much time has been wasted in defending. As he gathers the Force around him, Dooku lunges towards Savage again, catching the Zabrak off guard. Their sabers lock together, the stalemate being broken only when Dooku throws Savage backwards, slamming him into a wall. He gathers in the dark side, far more strongly than he ever has before, extending his left hand as he catches his opponent in a forced choke. Savage struggles against the grip, eyes glaring fiercely at him as a burst of lightning envelopes his body, sending him writhing to the ground. Not sparing a moment, Dooku leaps towards him, his blue blade stabbing through Savage's chest. He spins around, taking in the scene. Of everyone, Kenobi is faring the worst as he fends off Grievous, so Dooku springs forward, shooting electricity at him as he tries to flee on four limbs. Obi-Wan spins his lightsaber as he approaches Grievous, sensing Anakin and Ahsoka engaging Maul behind him. "General Kenobi, you are a bold one," sneers Grievous. "Surely you realize you are doomed." "Your move," Obi-Wan retorts coolly. "You fool," growls Grievous, as he throws off his cape. His arms split as he withdraws and activates four lightsabers. "I have been trained in your Jedi arts by Darth Sidious himself. Attack, Kenobi." "So be it." Obi-Wan spins his blade again, pointing towards Grievous with the hint of a smirk on his face. The droid general snarls, eyes narrowing to slits as he begins dramatically and rapidly spinning his lightsabers. They cut into the floor, causing sparks to fly, as he stalks closer. Obi-Wan slowly backs away from the seemingly crazed cyborg until they're standing in the middle of the room. If they move any further, they'll risk running into Maul, and Obi-Wan really doesn't want to get a lightsaber stuck through his spine. Obi-Wan lunges forward, swinging his lightsaber at the top two, which Grievous doesn't have stuck in the floor. Grievous yanks the others free, spinning them towards him, so he leaps over the cyborg's head, attacking him from behind. Grievous whirls around, lightsabers flailing wildly as he tries to decapitate Obi-Wan. He draws on the Force, ducking skillfully and blocking the blows as they come. He quickly realizes that Grievous has had little training and seems to rely on the number of lightsabers which he possesses. He's not even Force sensitive. As the duel progresses, Obi-Wan finds himself being challenged, as he ducks, blocks, and evades, but he isn't known as the master of sorcery for nothing. Defense is his specialty, and if he can't defeat Grievous alone, he can hold him off until someone can help him. Obi-Wan feints to one side, and as a green lightsaber is turned to block him, he changes direction, slicing off one of Grievous' hands. The cyborg stares in horror at his missing hand, before charging forward with a roar of rage, lightsabers flailing wildly in every direction, forcing Obi-Wan to make some rather unconventional moves to about them. Grievous is only dangerous because he has so many lightsabers and towers over most of his adversaries. Falling back to the defensive, Obi-Wan slowly backs away, parrying any strikes which come to close to his body. They're caught in a saber lock, as Grievous tries to overpower him, failing when Obi-Wan cuts off a second hand. sending the lightsaber clattering to the ground. Raving mad, Grievous slashes at him with the 2 remaining lightsabers, a strike which Obi-Wan hastily blocks. Again, and again, the droid general strike, raining blows towards his chest, legs, arms, any body part which is open, but Obi-Wan's blade is there every single time as he backs away. Grievous pulls back for another strike, giving Obi-Wan the opening he was looking for. Drawing on the Force, he throws him backwards, sending him skidding across the floor. He doesn't realize until a second too late that it was a mistake. With one final snarl, Grievous turns and runs away on 4 of his limbs like the coward he is. Obi-Wan lunges after him, silently cursing his mistake. The clones will have no way of stopping him if he reaches them. Just as he fears he'll never stop him in time, electricity blasts from nearby, striking Grievous and sending him to the floor, growling. Dooku steps into view, blue lightsaber held in front of him, eyes tinged with yellow as he stares the cyborg down. Grievous stands up, anger radiating into the Force even more powerfully as he ignites his 2 lightsabers once more. Obi-Wan and Dooku approach him from opposite sides, caging him in between them. They lunge in unison, blades crashing into Grievous. After a few more slashes, the trio find themselves trapped in a saber lock, which ends when Grievous raises his left foot and unexpectedly grabs Obi-Wan's neck, tossing him to the side like a rag doll. He lands hard on the floor, breath knocked out of him from the impact. He stands back up, sprinting towards Grievous just as Dooku slices off a third hand. Grievous doesn't even stand a chance. He slashes towards them again with a howl of anger, but Dooku throws him back into the wall, keeping him pinned there with the Force as he runs him through with his lightsaber. The body collapses to the floor, life rapidly fading away as Obi-Wan and Dooku spin to face the duel on the other side of the room. Maul is the only one left standing, and he's losing fast, or at least it looks like he is, until he swings his lightsaber towards Ahsoka's prone body for what will be a killing blow. Anakin and Ahsoka close in on Maul. From the stories Ahsoka has heard from Obi-Wan, she knows better than to underestimate the Sith Lord. If he could overpower Qui-Gon, though she never met him, Maul is a force to be reckoned with. She keeps her green lightsabers in front of her as they strike towards him as a team. Even though it must be unwieldy to use a lightsaber which requires a great deal of spinning, Maul is matching them blow for blow. She desperately hopes it won't be hard to defeat him. When she fought him on Sereno, she hardly had a chance to learn his style, but between her and Anakin, she remains confident that they will win. Maul's lightsaber moves between them with a practiced grace, keeping both of them from going fully on the offensive. She leaps back as he nearly takes off her arm, before blocking him from hitting and opening Anakin left. As the duel progresses, Ahsoka quickly realizes that she's doing far more defending than attacking. Trying to find a weakness in the blur of red swirling around him is almost impossible, even though she does manage to give his left arm a glancing blow. He's incredibly skilled at using the Force while fighting, something she learns all too well when she's tossed backwards for the third time. Somehow, Anakin seems to be holding him off far better. Her frustration quickly leads to anger. If they don't defeat him, Sidious could escape, something that they cannot allow. On impulse, she reaches towards the dark side. She's gotten used to drawing on it over the past few weeks, though it still feels strange to embrace something she's shunned her entire life. Anakin isn't having nearly as hard of a time. She felt him grasp it towards the beginning. Maul picks up the pace of his attacks, backing away and tossing a random object or two at them as they push him onto the defensive. A surge in the Force is Ahsoka's only warning before she's flying through the air and slamming hard into a wall. She lands on the floor most ungracefully, shaking her head to clear her vision. Maul spins his lightsaber, stabbing viciously towards Anakin, hatred boiling, as the Sith makes a clear attempt to force him onto the defensive. She pulls herself back to her feet, calling her lightsaber to her hands, igniting them as she leaps through the air, bringing them down hard on one of Maul's red blades. He doesn't even seem fazed, ducking gracefully between them and pushing Anakin backwards a few steps. Maul is showing no signs of tiring, and Ahsoka is becoming irritated. The fight is taking far too long, and she knows the real duel is still ahead of them. Twisting his lightsaber in a surprise move, Maul manages to rip one of her lightsabers away, sending it skittering across the floor, before kicking Anakin backwards off his feet. She barely has time to register that the Zabrak is turning towards her before she's flying through the air again, slamming into a wall for the second time. Stars dance in her vision as she feels herself landing on the ground. She can't stop now. They have a duel to win. She reaches for her lightsaber, fingers outstretched as it flies towards her, looking up in time to see Maul's lightsaber arching down towards her neck. In a millisecond, she knows she can't block it in time, and scooting across the floor only gives her inches. Is this the end? She can't help but wonder if it is, fear searing through her. When Maul's blade is only inches from her body, it's so close she can feel the heat. He's ripped backwards by an invisible force and lifted into the air, reaching towards his neck as he's force choked. Scrambling to her feet, Ahsoka sees Anakin standing there, anger pouring off him in waves as he mercilessly crushes the Sith's neck, stalking towards him before stabbing him through the chest with his lightsaber. Maul's lifeless body falls to the ground. Anakin stares at it for a moment, breathing hard before he turns to face her, eyes glowing a Sithly yellow. "Are you all right?" he asks, concern coloring his tone, even as the dark side hovers around him like a shroud. "I'm fine," she assures him, calling her other lightsaber back to her hand. She looks away from him, trying to pretend that his yellow eyes aren't scaring her. She's not afraid of him, she has no reason to be, but she knows what he's capable of in that state. At least the only other person around he might kill is Sidious. "Let's go join the others," he urges, turning towards Obi-Wan and Dooku who are approaching. "We need to find Sidious." As they move deeper into the temple, Anakin feels shivers run down his spine at the raw darkness pervading their surroundings. Even the embrace of the dark side doesn't protect him from the eeriness of it all. He has no idea how Sidious or anyone could stand to be here for an extended period of time without going out of their mind. "He's in there somewhere," Dooku's voice is low, but certain. Maybe Anakin isn't the only one who is getting strange sensations. "Ready?" Obi-Wan asks rhetorically. Anakin adjusts his grip on his unignited lightsaber. "Do we have a choice?" "Let's go," urges Ahsoka. "We need to end this." Anakin pushes open the door, and the resounding clang echoes down the hallway, becoming distorted as time goes on. "I see you have finally made your way up here," Sidious calls, turning from the window overlooking the courtyard. A pleased yet cruel smirk twists up his lips. "You have lost," he declares with a chilling sense of finality. "We still outnumber you, Sidious," Anakin spits, lightsaber hissing to life in preparation for the impending duel. "It seems that you do," the Sith Lord replies, completely unruffled. "Surrender now, and we will spare your life," Obi-Wan offers. Anakin gives him an odd look. "We don't have any force restraints with us," he reminds him. "I know, but it's a moot point, because he'll never surrender," Obi-Wan replies dismissively. Anakin snorts. "On that, he's definitely right." "I don't think so," murmurs Sidious, the dark side gathering around him. A red blade hisses to life in each hand, and he raises them. "One last chance to surrender," he warns. "I'll pass," Ahsoka spits out. Anakin glances at her briefly, noticing a faint tinge of yellow in her eyes again. He'd last seen it in their duel against Maul. He's not even sure if she realized. Sidious lunges towards them, striking towards Dooku and Obi-Wan, who block him just in time. They hold him off as Anakin and Ahsoka join the duel, seeking to find a weakness. A slow rage begins building when Anakin realizes that he's mainly going after Obi-Wan and Ahsoka. He intends to kill them, and he cannot let that happen. They're his family. He has to protect them. He just can't sacrifice his soul to do it. Anakin attacks Sidious even more fiercely, using a combination of both his lightsaber and the Force. The Sith seems unfazed, darting between and around them, his blade grazing Anakin's arm. He ignores the pain and keeps fighting, drawing on the dark side more strongly than ever before. He can feel it burning at him, as he throws Sidious across the room. Obi-Wan lunges, aiming his lightsaber for a killing blow, but Sidious pushes him backwards and starts force choking him as he stands up. Despite everything that's ever happened between them, that's Obi-Wan. Anakin's father figure, former master, best friend, brother. He will never allow anyone to kill him. A snarl of rage escapes him as he raises his left hand, a bolt of lightning arching towards the Sith. Sidious throws Obi-Wan at Anakin right in the path of the lightning, rolling out of the way and coming back to his feet in time to crash blades with Dooku. Anakin can only stare frozen with horror at Obi-Wan as he lays on the floor, trying to recover after getting electrocuted. And it's Anakin's fault, because he did something stupid. He wasn't even thinking clearly. Even the sound of clashing lightsabers behind him doesn't snap him out of his trance. Obi-Wan finally catches his gaze, giving him a tired, but affectionate, half-smile. "Stop staring at me," he chides through their bond, "I'm fine. It's not your fault that Sidious is a sadistic monster." They charge in unison, lightsabers blazing as they try to push through Sidious' defenses. The Sith Lord seems to realize that he's losing, throwing a blast of the Force outwards, and sending everyone skidding to the floor. Without wasting a second, he lets lightning strike them. Anakin gasps as pain courses through his body. If one of them doesn't do something, they'll all die an inglorious death. He doesn't mind sacrificing himself, but a cold, hard rage boils inside him at the thought of Obi-Wan or Ahsoka falling to Sidious' hands. Anakin struggles to push past the pain searing through him, gathering in the dark side and force pushing Sidious as hard as he can. It certainly wasn't his best attack. The Sith deflected much of it, but it was enough to knock him off balance. Anakin calls his lightsaber, igniting it midair as he throws it at Sidious's body, striking him in the arm before he has a chance to deflect it. Struggling to his feet, he charges, stabbing the blade through Sidious's chest and blocking the final attack of lightning, deflecting it back at him. Behind him, he can hear the others standing up and moving to defend themselves if Sidious manages to survive. "I still win," Sidious rasps out, a demented grin on his face as his body goes slack, the life draining out of it. For a moment, no one moves as they all stare at Sidious' dead body. "It's over," whispers Ahsoka, relief blooming across her face. Anakin is about to nod and make a witty comment when he feels an icy dark presence latch onto his mind and press against his shields. He doesn't need to ask, he just knows. "Oh no," he murmurs faintly, "this isn't good." "Anakin." Obi-Wan's worried voice enters his mind through a haze as he gathers the force to hold off the unseen attacker. "I think," he tells them with a faint note of lightness, "that Sidious believes my mind to be his new home." He can feel the alarm ripple through the others as a sledgehammer hits his mental shields, making him wince and put a hand on the wall for balance. "Can you fight him alone?" Dooku's tone conveys his concern. "Perhaps Kenobi can help you." "I don't know," Anakin bites out, though it's obvious his irritation isn't directed at the Count. Pain sears through his mind. Let someone ever say a mind invasion is painless. "Let me in." It's a thought, practically a plea, but he won't give in. The next assault brings him to his knees, breathing heavily. A distant part of his mind is worried that Sidious probably doesn't care if he destroys him mentally. The Sith Lord's power has him floored, no pun intended. He shouldn't be stronger than the Chosen One. "I can help you," Obi-Wan reminds him, crouching down next to him. He doesn't wait for Anakin's argument before completely opening their bond and flooding it with determination, concern, and love. He shifts, so he's sitting next to Anakin. "I," begins Anakin, thoughts scrambling as the room seems to start spinning around him. Groaning, he tilts his head back against the wall and closes his eyes. He might be powerful, but his power has never extended far mentally. He's always had a hard time with meditation and shielding, something which has just become his biggest weakness. Obi-Wan presses against the shield over their bond, silently urging Anakin to drop it and let him in. Anakin knows he should, but something inside him twists painfully at the realization that his former master will see every emotion and thought in his mind. You can't trust him. Palpatine's voice slithers into his head, the attack continuing at full strength. He won't be able to hold out much longer. He needs help, but he doesn't want it from Obi-Wan. He doesn't want to be completely vulnerable with him. Master, let him in, begs Ahsoka, kneeling next to him, blue eyes wide with fear. Her vision. Of course. He'd promised not to let it happen. When Obi-Wan wraps an arm around his shoulders, pulling him close, he realizes he's shaking from the furious battle over his mind. He shouldn't be hesitating like this, but if he's being honest, he's scared. He's scared that Obi-Wan will see something inside him and reject him. Part of him still fears that it's his fault Obi-Wan faked his death. Perhaps because he thought him unworthy in some way. Of course, murmurs Sidious, obviously sensing the thought. He will never be able to understand you. Can't, he mutters faintly, closing his eyes again, but not before he catches a flicker of hurt on his former master's face. Sky Guy, you have to. Insists Ahsoka desperately, I'm nowhere near strong enough to fight off a Sith. His refusal is hurting his sister too now, just in a different way. He slowly turns his eyes towards Dooku, who frowns slightly. Anakin has never seen him look concerned until now. I can't help you, Skywalker, he tells him, our bond isn't nearly strong enough, and we don't have the time to strengthen it. Why won't you let me in? Questions Obi-Wan, do you not trust me? No, but he can't bring himself to say that. His every insecurity is being dragged to the surface, something Sidious is knowingly encouraging, if not intentionally causing. His silence answers the question, and for the briefest moment, he senses a rush of pain before it's concealed. He loves his brother, but he's afraid of being hurt again. Obi-Wan runs a gentle hand through Anakin's hair as his head rests on his former master's shoulder. He should tell him. He needs his help, and he can't resist Sidious forever. Another violent force shove cracks through his outermost shields. Sidious flood every crack with the dark side, drawing out all his fears and uncertainties. You were always meant to help me, my boy. The message is coaxing, trying to get him to listen. It's how Palpatine always talked to him. Manipulation, he realizes, unconsciously pressing closer to Obi-Wan. He used him, lied to him. But he wasn't the only one. Obi-Wan used him, too, when he let Anakin think him dead. If he'll only be seen as a tool, why fight? If he's being possessed, at least it will only be his body, not his mind, heart, and soul. His emotions will always be his, something he selfishly wants to guard. They were the only thing he's always owned since he was born, and he doesn't want to share them now. Obi-Wan becomes increasingly desperate as Anakin bars his entry. It's not that he wants to be in his brother's mind, but it's necessary. It invades privacy in an extremely personal way, but there's no room for debate. Suddenly, the shield slips, and Obi-Wan instantly presses forward, instantly realizing that Anakin simply doesn't have the strength to resist him any longer. He's weakening rapidly, and worse still, he's not fighting. As he looks closer, he can almost see the dark side being forced at and into Anakin. His shields are crumbling fast and something is terribly wrong in his mind. Obi-Wan gathers the force, throwing a wave towards Sidious and working to help shield Anakin's mind from the assault. Then, he turns his attention to the person in question. He's locked himself away in his own mind, and as Obi-Wan probes gently, he's immediately overwhelmed with thoughts and emotions. Can't trust him. Should trust him but can't. He'll leave me again. Not worthy. Doesn't fully care. Just be hurt again. Didn't want me. I can't be a Jedi. Never be worthy. Can't be. He'll leave. They all will. The thoughts are accompanied by a whirlwind of emotions, guilt, fear, pain, anger, hopelessness. He realizes that Anakin has practically become the epicenter of a storm. Sidious is fueling his insecurities, and everything is blowing up. Obi-Wan had thought they'd resolved the issues between them, but now, looking inside Anakin's mind, he can see how wrong he was. It's almost as though his mind was shattered. It was fractured very badly, and he can still see so many scars. No. His brother is not alright and probably hasn't been for a while, even if it's only been subconsciously. Obi-Wan is hit with crippling guilt, realizing that he can no longer rationalize his actions. He had done it and left Anakin to suffer horribly. He'd been hiding from his own emotions' attachments to the point that it hurt everyone. Anakin, I'm sorry. I had no idea. I never meant for this to happen, I swear. He knows Anakin can hear his thoughts and feel his emotions clearly. He desperately wants to fix things, even though he has no idea how. Forgive me, brother. I thought I could prove to the council that we weren't attached. I couldn't admit it to myself, lest I defy all my own beliefs, but now I see how foolish it was. I love you. I truly do, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I can't lose you. Please don't let that happen. You need to fight Sidious. Anakin's mind becomes so quiet that Obi-Wan is afraid for a moment that it's too late to reach him. Do you really mean it? The thought is accompanied by a fragile hope so cautious and wary, it tears at his heart. Nothing in the galaxy can be worth Anakin's pain. He recognizes a second later how un-Jedi that sounds, but he's moved past the order or tried to. Yes. You can feel my thoughts, can't you? Please don't doubt me this once. Obi-Wan mentally begs Anakin to fight. Sidious is gaining ground disturbingly fast, and they don't have time to talk, though he knows how important it is. A light. Slowly Anakin accepts Obi-Wan's proffered metaphysical hand, and their force signatures meld together as they draw on the force to push Sidious out. It doesn't take long, despite how hard it is. In that moment, Obi-Wan can feel all of Anakin's mind, almost as though it's part of his, and he knows the same goes for his brother. They're like two halves of a whole, and they'll never be able to look at one another the same way again. Obi-Wan might be in Anakin's mind, but Anakin can still feel every part of his. His love, guilt, surprise, and concern echo as though they belong to Anakin. Now, he can also feel his brother's reservations and insecurities. Appearances are deceiving. Obi-Wan fears people will never choose him, no matter what he does, because no one ever has. Qui-Gon didn't want to take him as a Padawan, no one did really because of his temper, and that is a true shock, just like Anakin hadn't wanted him as a master. At least not initially. Despite it all, Obi-Wan continued moving forward as though unplagued by such thoughts. I choose you, Anakin thinks to him, or I wouldn't be here. Obi-Wan responds with a surge of gratitude, and they turn their focus back to Sidious. Anakin realizes silently that he's not truly alone. At least not anymore. Obi-Wan is here, in his mind, seeing whatever there is to see, and when this is over, they'll come out understanding one another far better. For that, he is grateful. He tightens his hold on Obi-Wan's force signature, drawing on his power and channeling it outwards to shield his mind once more. Only their bond he leaves wide open. He can feel Sidious' anger as he tries to hold onto Anakin's mind, using the dark side to dig in and cling persistently, whispering all the while how much of a mistake he's making. For his part, Anakin refuses to be intimidated, drawing on Obi-Wan's love for him to pry the claws free. Slowly, excoriatingly slowly, he can feel the Sith's presence weakening before finally breaking free after one final, furious snarl of rage. All around him, the force calms flowing over him soothingly. Brain pounding, he finally opens his eyes weakly. He's slumped against Obi-Wan, who is holding him protectively. They're so mentally entangled and exhausted that he's hardly sure when they'll finally pull apart. For now, he'll simply suffer with the weirdness of almost being able to see through one another's eyes. Ahsoka is crouched near him, worried blue eyes trained on him. Dooku is standing several paces away, arms crossed. "It's finished then," the Count states flatly, and Anakin nods. "We need to go to Coruscant to speak to the Council on what has transpired, but for now, let's settle for telling Senator Amidala." It's several minutes before Obi-Wan pulls out of Anakin's mind, though he leaves their bond open. "We should get out of here," states Ahsoka flatly. "I don't want to spend one extra moment on this creepy planet." Anakin huffs out a laugh. "I, for one, agree with you." He carefully pulls himself to his feet, and Ahsoka immediately wraps her arms around him. Anakin can sense the tension fade from her body as she hugs him. She was terrified her vision might occur, but she did a splendid job hiding it. "Let's go," he says finally, releasing her. "Yes," agrees Obi-Wan. "And we need to talk more, you and I." He gives Anakin's arm a quick squeeze of comfort before turning towards the doorway. "Once we're in space, we can contact your wife." Anakin gives him a sideways look before following him out of the room, Dooku and Ahsoka right behind him. Along the way, Obi-Wan contacts Rex and Cody, telling them to have the clones and droids leave the facility and wait for them outside. The 3 clones who had stayed behind in fighters will be coming to pick them up in the shuttles. A mild pain pulses through his mind, making his brain feel somewhat muddled. The fight had not been easy, and it certainly took its toll on his mind. He guesses it will take a couple days for him to feel normal again. The war is finally over, there's no one left to fight. Now, they can complete the process of restoring peace, but that's not something which he'll really have a hand in. The real question is, what now? He's been used to going on missions as a Padawan, and more recently, fighting in the Clone Wars and planning to destroy Sidious. He doesn't even know how he could survive without something to do. He's never lived a quiet life outside the Order always seemed too surreal to contemplate, but at least he won't be alone. He'll have Padme, Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Dooku. The clones will be there too. Maybe he doesn't have to give up his life of tension and adventure. He remembers, a long time ago, how he'd promised to return to Tatooine and free the slaves. They could still do it. Rex and the 501st would be more than willing to help him, and it's a worthy goal, one which Obi-Wan and Dooku would wholeheartedly support, if not aid in. He makes a mental note to mention it to them later. Once they sort out the immediate complications from Sidious' death, he should be free enough to venture on another mission. For now, they all deserve some much-needed rest. Force knows they deserve it. The past week hasn't been easy for any of them, and right now, his brain feels like it might explode. Attempted possessions are definitely not fun. When they are securely in the shuttles, Anakin dials Padme with Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Dooku gathered around him. "Ani," she greets him, an expression of what seems to be relief on her face. "I was getting worried. It takes more than a Sith Lord to kill me, Angel," he replies teasingly. "We have destroyed Sidious," Obi-Wan interjects, delivering the news. "You should inform the Senate of the news, so the Republic can move towards settling the war. With Sidious gone, I expect the remaining separatist systems will be willing to negotiate a treaty. And we are coming to Coruscant." Ahsoka adds. "That is wonderful news, Master Kenobi. I will be happy to see you all in person so we can catch up." The last part seemed to be directed mainly towards Ahsoka. "And Dooku is coming too," Anakin tells her. "We'll be having dinner at your apartment, unless you'd rather we go elsewhere." He can't help but grin. He knows she'll invite them there, but he couldn't help but add the last part. Padme isn't particularly fond of Dooku, unlike him. "Dooku is coming here? Is that safe?" worries Padme. "It's not like I'll be announcing my presence on the Holo News," Dooku answers dryly, a hint of humor which Anakin didn't realize he had, slipping into his words. "I shall be perfectly safe, Senator. It will be a pleasure to meet you. I'll bring the news to the Senate immediately," Padme informs them. "Would you like me to tell the Jedi Council? I know you're not on the best of terms with them." Anakin exchanges a look with the others. "No, Obi-Wan speaks for them all. Don't tell them. As you are a senator, it is your duty to tell the Senate. We will speak with the council ourselves after our arrival. I am sure they will wish to speak with us. As you wish, she answers, eyes seeking out Anakin's. I see you when you arrive, she finishes before disconnecting the call. I imagine there will be a big uproar, Dooku comments. Sidious had numerous supporters, and some will not be happy with his death. I have a datapad of information which I believe will be very useful to Senator Amidala and her friends. Anakin tips his head back on his chair. That's nice. I'm sure Padme will be elated, he murmurs. Are you all right, Master? Ahsoka asks, worry coloring her tone. He gives her a grin. I will be. In time, he answers, what I need right now, is a nap. My mind is still adjusting to being invaded. Come on, Obi-Wan urges before anyone has a chance to say anything. You are going to bed, and I think I'll join you. Fighting Sidious was rather taxing. Anakin bulks. Master, I'm hardly young enough for you to be putting me to bed. Sometimes, you seem incapable of taking care of yourself. That came from Dooku. No. Don't you dare team up against me, Anakin threatens, half-heartedly as Ahsoka snorts behind him. He complies anyways, standing up and following Obi-Wan out of the room. I'm sure you can handle it, Sky Guy, Ahsoka chirps from behind him and snickers when he throws her a glare over his shoulder. There's not enough cabins here for all the passengers, Obi-Wan tells him after they're alone. We can share if you want. Anakin shrugs half-heartedly, exhaustion threatening to overcome him. Sure. We've done it many times in the past. Yes, we have, his brother murmurs, guiding him towards one of the cabins. B. When Anakin awakens, the entire shuttle seems to be quiet. He can sense the quietness of the people all around him in the Force. Slipping out of his bunk, he glances over at Obi-Wan. His brother is still sleeping, so he quietly leaves the room, heading to the main hold. The only one there is Dooku, who seems to be meditating. Skywalker, the Count murmurs, opening his eyes and looking at Anakin. Would you care to join me? Anakin shrugs. I don't have anything better to do, he replies, sitting opposite Dooku. They've done this before meditating together. Part of him can't believe how far they've come from when they first crossed paths as cautious allies rather than enemies. It feels like so long ago that they were on opposite sides of the conflict when Dooku cut off his arm. As a general rule, Anakin doesn't share his emotions with the Count, partially because they're not exactly friends. They're more like acquaintances, with Dooku being somewhat like a mentor at times. Closing his eyes, Anakin gives himself over to the Force, the light and dark sides shifting in a perfect balance all around him. He rests in the perfect balance between them, feeling their harmonious interaction. Opening himself up to the Force, Anakin senses the path ahead of him. It's long and not always bright, but it gives him the assurance of having no regrets. He will never believe that accepting Dooku's offer was a mistake. He's grown and matured so much in the time he's spent with the Count, that he can honestly admit as much as it hurt Obi-Wan's faked death was necessary. It made him a better person, giving him a new outlook on everything in his life. Words which he feels he needs to say float around just below the surface. Finally, he opens his eyes, turning his attention on Dooku. Thank you, he says quietly, putting as much sincerity and gratitude as he can into the words, for helping me and for not letting me fall. Self-reflection. Muses Dooku, blue eyes meeting Anakin's as he raises an eyebrow. You have changed a lot. There's a pause before he continues. I know what Qui-Gon saw in you, and I think he would be proud of who you have become. Those words are the closest thing to praise Anakin has ever heard from Dooku, and he can't help but feel overwhelmed. Obi-Wan may have raised and trained me, but you helped me in more ways I could express, Anakin manages to reply, eyes fixed on the floor. He can almost feel the Count weighing and analyzing something as his gaze pierces into Anakin. You showed me that there are ways to accomplish objectives without tearing apart the galaxy, Dooku admits slowly. Anakin's head snaps up towards him, startled. How? Sidious manipulated me into first using the dark side after Qui-Gon died, the Count replies, hesitatingly, almost as though unsure whether he should share. I had hoped to find a way to fix the problems I saw in the Order with Qui-Gon's help, something which I knew I could not accomplish after he died, so I left. I couldn't, in good conscience, stay a Jedi when I was using the dark side. How did he? Anakin begins slowly, unsure if he should even ask the question. He and Dooku have never had a conversation like this before. Dooku gives him a questioning look, so he relents. How did he manipulate you? I thought you might ask that. Something in Dooku's tone is almost resigned and maybe slightly sad. I had cared for Qui-Gon greatly, though our relationship wasn't nearly as close as yours is with Kenobi. Sidious used that against me. Anakin knows Dooku well enough to recognize that he'll never openly express or explain emotions, but he's currently saying without actually saying it that his attachment to his former Padawan is why he fell. Interesting. Maybe they're more alike than Anakin has been assuming. When I thought Kenobi died, I knew Sidious would use that against you, Dooku continues. He had already made it abundantly clear that he had an interest in you, which why I asked you for help. It wasn't because I cared about you. I didn't know what Qui-Gon saw in you. I saw you as immature and too emotional to make a good Jedi. Ouch. It's all true, but that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt to hear it from someone else. It was true, Anakin concedes, despite himself. But you do make a good Sith, Dooku adds. Someday, you will be the most powerful trained Force user in the galaxy. I thought I already was, Anakin replies jokingly, lightening the mood in the room. If they're done with their emotional talk, it would be just as well. You're not, the Count assures him immediately. You're still too young and inexperienced. Thanks, Anakin quips dryly, but he doesn't miss the unmistakable look of fondness in Dooku's eyes as he looks at him. If someone had told him a year ago that there would be a time when he and Dooku would not only be able to have a civilized conversation, but also consider one another friends, he would have laughed it off. Now, Anakin can't help but feel grateful that he was given the opportunity to get to know him. It is with nostalgia that Anakin looks at the Jedi Temple in the distance as they fly towards Padme's apartment. Part of him still can't believe that he was really expelled, never to set foot inside that building again. It was the only place he'd ever called home for half of his childhood. He won't deny that he misses it, but being a hero and saving the galaxy doesn't come without costs. Maybe after everything is over, they can move to Naboo. He would be hard-pressed to miss the temple if he lived there. He shakes himself out of his thoughts as they arrive on the landing platform. He can feel his wife's Force signature as she awaits them. Eagerness grips a hold of him as he walks down the ramp towards where Padme awaits them. For now, this apartment will be home. Angel, Anakin greets her as she throws her arms around him, completely ignoring their other guests. He pulls her close, holding her tightly. He'd missed her so much over the past many weeks. I'm so glad to finally be home. You do look much better this time, she agrees, stepping back to peer up at him. I saved the galaxy, he reminds her with a crooked grin, leaning down to give her a quick kiss. Master! Squeaks Ahsoka, sounding appalled. That was not necessary. Anakin rolls his eyes. Just because you never got to be dramatic in the past, doesn't mean you can make up for it now, he reminds her. She smirks. I thought it was the job of a younger sister to annoy her older brother. Anakin resists the urge to groan. You know what? Let's not get into this right now. Senator Amidala, Dooku murmurs, bowing to her respectfully. It is a pleasure to meet you under better circumstances. We have much to discuss, Obi-Wan adds smoothly. We should go inside. V. What are your plans for the future? Asks Padme after they're all seated in the living room. The Senate is in an uproar over Sidious' death. I assume you have evidence. We should have the complete video footage of everything which happened, Anakin replies. Artua should have it. I can have him download it onto a data card for you later. We will finish bringing peace to the galaxy, Dooku tells her, and then, we will work to help the people, those who need us most. I assume Skywalker will be going through his trials to officially obtain the title of Sith Lord. Yes, Anakin confirms, ignoring the unease at returning to Korriban. He doesn't want to see that planet ever again. I will. That is a tradition which we should keep. I want to go through it too, Ahsoka announces. Anakin and Dooku exchange a look at Ahsoka's words. That is fine, the Count decides. When we deem you ready, you can go. I know I haven't used the dark side like you have, but I am willing to go through it too, Obi-Wan informs them. We need enough trained Sith Lords to expand our order. You are planning to train more Sith? Padme asks, surprised. Yes. The Jedi have lost their way, Anakin explains. Shunning the dark side only breeds fear, and it prevents them from reaching their full potential. They will never have balance unless they embrace the Force in all of its forms. And what of the Council? She pushes. We will have to tell them, Obi-Wan answers simply. I expect we will be asked to meet with them tomorrow. What will we do after that? Ahsoka wonders. Anakin leans forward. I actually have an idea, he replies. If the war is over, the clones will no longer be fighting, but suppose we ask them to join us in crushing out slavery throughout the Republic? I would be more than happy to lead them. Obi-Wan snorts, of course you would be. You never could sit still. Anakin glares at him, unwilling to admit that very problem is what prompted him to find a solution. He's still too restless to settle down. The Clone Wars made him that way. I'm not that bad, Master, he protests. His brother mutters something which sounds suspiciously like, sure you're not. Dooku looks torn between amusement and exasperation. It is a good idea, he says instead, ignoring their bantering. We can present ourselves as champions of freedom, something which will remove the negative connotation associated with Sith. Padme looks between them thoughtfully. I'll present the idea to the Senate. It will work. If you pick your own campaigns, at least you'll still be able to come home more often. The last sentence was directed specifically to Anakin. He feels a sense of guilt. He's always been gone, throughout most of their marriage. Maybe someday soon he can stay at home, but that day has yet to come. I'm going to contact the Council, Obi-Wan decides after a moment of silence. Anakin, would you like to come with me? No, but I will. Anakin rises, squeezing Padme's hand before following Obi-Wan to the next room. After this is over, you should go visit Duchess Satin for a couple weeks, he comments casually, giving his brother a knowing smirk. I'm sure she'll be happy to see you. Are you really setting me up with her? Obi-Wan demands, aghast. His indignation is readily obvious through their bond. Anakin laughs quietly. I doubt you would do it otherwise, he smirks, nudging Obi-Wan good-naturedly. Now call the Council. I want to get it over with. In truth, Anakin never thought he would be standing inside the Council chambers again, and certainly not with Obi-Wan, Dooku, and Ahsoka. He can admit to feeling resentment for what they did to him, even if it turned out to be beneficial. Their rejection of him still hurt. We are here with the understanding that you will let us go, regardless of whether or not you approve of our actions, Dooku states imperiously. And you will not try to keep us here against our will, Anakin adds darkly, intentionally drawing on the dark side and letting it bleed his eyes yellow. He looks at them defiantly. Really, Anakin, mumbles Obi-Wan, that is not necessary. Anakin ignores him. Yes, we have agreed to those terms, Winder replies, gaze lingering on Anakin. Made a mistake we have, Yoda declares, ears twitching slightly. Want to ask you back to the Order we do. Wait. You want us to rejoin the Order and become Jedi? Anakin queries, incredulously. We are not Jedi, Dooku interjects before Anakin can say anything further. We are Sith, and we intend to remain as such. We understand, Windu tells him, and now, he clearly sounds unhappy about whatever he's about to say. The majority has ruled that perhaps we were wrong about avoiding the dark side. If you would be willing, the Council will accept a representative. We don't have to be enemies. We can work together. Anakin chokes back a laugh, blue eyes meeting Ahsoka's. Windu looks like he would much rather have drunk poison than spoken those words to them. Dooku looks at Anakin questioningly. This is their Sith order now. They all need to agree before making any decisions. Anakin looks at Obi-Wan, probing him over their bond before offering the Count a wordless nod. We will accept the proposal on the condition that you do not infringe on our right to train others in the dark side if they so choose. Dooku's words are tinged with a cautious reservation. Glad to have you back, we are. Yoda means it. Anakin can sense his sincerity through the Force. Obi-Wan can be our representative, Anakin speaks up. What? I never agreed to that. Hisses Obi-Wan, throwing Anakin a look. Well, no, Anakin agrees, but you're the best choice because you were already on the Council. I'm nowhere near ready to be a Council member. I'm not even a full Sith Lord yet, and Ahsoka is still an apprentice. Point made. Yes, I am willing to serve on the Council as a representative of the Sith, Obi-Wan informs them. Surely the galaxy has turned upside down. The Jedi and Sith, two orders which have fought each other for millenniums, have just formed a truce. Could things possibly get even stranger? An unnamed tension seems to break, and the atmosphere around them becomes more pleasant. By destroying Sidious, you have saved the galaxy. We owe you all a great debt. The warmth and gratitude in PLO's words can't be missed. We were only doing our duty, Anakin replies lightly. You were wronged, so it is only natural that you be aggrieved, PLO reminds him. I hope you can forgive the Jedi for what was done. There is nothing to forgive. Anakin brushes it off. It's not PLO he was upset with, nor Fisto, Yoda, or the others who were against his expulsion. Show me, could you, after this meeting, the fight against Sidious? Asks Yoda with genuine curiosity and interest. Anakin glances at Ahsoka and shrugs. If that's what you want. Grown much you have, the Grand Master notes. Helped you greatly Dooku has. How does he see all these things? Yes, he did, Anakin agrees. You can wait outside, Windu interrupts, though not unkindly. The Council has a few other matters to discuss. I would like to go to the library to view the information you have about the Sith, Dooku says before anyone can make a move to leave the room. No one objects, so they leave the Council chambers together, heading for the library. What are we looking for? This is the first time Ahsoka has spoken since they went before the Council. Nothing in particular, the Count replies, an amused look on his face. I was simply curious to know if the Jedi would refuse. Sidious managed to delete certain information from the archives, and it would be interesting to see how accurate it is. Since we have personal knowledge, Anakin adds dryly. Yes, we do, murmurs Obi-Wan, lips quirking into a smile. Recent updates. The Rogue Jedi Chapter 8, I think they're being tortured, Anakin whispers, suppressed fury in his voice. I win CE. I don't even want to think about it. Seems like it, I reply. The anger rippling through me gives me the strength to keep moving as we move closer. Anger surges through me as we continue. I don't take kindly to anyone hurting those I care about. Anakin motions to us to stop, as he moves the last couple feet, peering over the edge of the cliff. From what I can see, it must be around a 50-foot drop. Whatever he seems must not be good, because I hear him mutter something in Hutus, probably curses, before saying, I'll go down there. When the time is right, follow me. He leans further when he suddenly goes rigid and stands up. Without sparing a glance at us, he leaps over the edge, igniting his lightsaber on the way down. Anakin scrolls down on the datapad in his hand, one arm draped around Padme's shoulder as they sit side by side on the couch. It's getting late, but no one is ready to retire yet. Unsurprising. Obi-Wan still hasn't adjusted to not having reports to submit to the Council, nor has Anakin, to be fair. Both of them are freely enjoying their extra time by studying the ancient mystics of both the Jedi and Sith. Rex sent a message signed by everyone in the 501st, Ahsoka suddenly declares, looking up from where she's lounging in an armchair. They're thanking us for saving them from the fate Sidious had in store for them. Here. Read this. She pushes her datapad across the coffee table towards Anakin. He picks it up, scanning the words. General Skywalker, on behalf of the entire 501st, I would like to thank you for treating us as fellow humans and not letting us be enslaved for the rest of our lives. After getting the go-ahead earlier from Senator Amidala, we immediately began the procedures to remove all the chips. I've heard that the other battalions are doing likewise. We are in your debt, sir. You, General Kenobi, Commander Tano, and Count Dooku have saved our lives. We are eternally grateful, and each and every one of us wishes to continue serving you as you build your new order. It's signed Commander Rex. Padme leans over to read it, a smile pulling at her lips when she finishes. Those men deserve it, she murmurs. They've been through so much. Anakin passes the datapad to Count Dooku, who takes it and puts down the Sith holocron in his hands. If not for the 501st, we never would have succeeded, Anakin agrees. It's hard to believe that they're really free now. It looks like we have a good start in building our order, Dooku says finally, passing the datapad over to Obi-Wan. We have a willing army to help us in eradicating slavery. Tatooine is the best place to start, Obi-Wan informs them. I'm doing research on the planet now. We can discuss strategies when we're ready in a few weeks, but at least we have a head start. He pauses, stroking his beard contemplatively. Capturing Jabba would probably be a good place to start. Much as I agree, let's save the discussion for later, Obi-Wan. Yes. Padme interjects. All of you are finally getting to relax and recover from destroying Sidious. I don't think you need to talk about your next moves right now. My apologies, murmurs Obi-Wan, dipping his head slightly. Anakin smirks at him wordlessly before leaning his head against the couch. He feels so incredibly peaceful and happy. Everyone in his small family is safe, and they're all here. This feels like a dream, he whispers softly, leaning over to kiss Padme's temple. And no more hiding. You were right, you know, Angel. It was destructive. She smiles up at him. Then it's a good thing we'll never have to know what might have happened if we hadn't gotten the chance to stop hiding. She leans over to steal a quick kiss. I, for one, am most satisfied with how everything turned out. Anakin starts at the voice, turning to see a familiar figure standing there glowing in ethereal blue. Obi-Wan finds his tongue first. Qui-Gon? He asks incredulously. Yes, it is me, the figure Qui-Gon? Confirms. How is this possible? Dooku wonders incredulously. Anakin senses a tremor of emotion from the older man which is quickly buried. I learned the technique to preserve consciousness after death, Qui-Gon tells them. I am willing and eager to teach all of you in due time. He pauses, looking around the room. It makes me happy to see you here, my old master, he finally admits. I wasn't terribly happy with the direction everything was heading before you enlisted Anakin's help. Master Obi-Wan talks about you quite a bit, Ahsoka offers when Dooku seems unable to reply, looking away from the image of his former Padawan. Anakin does too sometimes, and I felt like I was the only one who never got the privilege of meeting you. Qui-Gon chuckles quietly. And now you have. Can you see the future in the Force as a ghost? Anakin questions curiously, absently twirling Padme's hair around his fingers. Yes and no, the dead Jedi Master replies after a moment, but whatever I see, I cannot say. Of course not, Obi-Wan mumbles dryly. So, you've been hanging around for years. It's more of a statement than a question, but Qui-Gon nods anyways. It wasn't until recently that I figured out how to project myself, he confesses. I knew how to communicate without making myself visible, but I only ever did it once. You did? When? Ahsoka sounds as curious as Anakin feels. In reply, the blue eyes drift towards Anakin. I tried and failed to help Anakin after on Tatooine, Qui-Gon explains haltingly. Anakin winces. He doesn't remember hearing anything, but the realization that Qui-Gon saw the massacre makes him feel even worse about his actions there. Had he known that the Jedi Master was there, he probably would never have felt as furious and helpless as he did. He pushes the thoughts aside when Padme reaches over to lace her fingers with his, probably sensing the downwards turn of his emotions. I'm glad to see you again, Master Jin, Padme finally says to him. I as well, the Force Ghost returns. I shall stop by every now and then to see you. It's getting late, Ani. Padme gives him a pointed look, eyes drifting towards Dooku who seems incapable of speaking. Anakin's been trying to refrain from looking at him, especially as he can feel his inner turmoil in the Force. Yes, Padme's right. Leaving now would be good. It will give Obi-Wan and Dooku some private time with Qui-Gon, time which they definitely need. Yes, that sounds good, Anakin agrees readily. Good night, Obi-Wan, Count, Qui-Gon, snips. He stands up, still holding Padme's hand. Ahsoka seems to catch on quickly because she rises as well. I'll go along as well. See you in the morning, Anakin, Padme, Ahsoka, Obi-Wan calls after them. Anakin catches Dooku's grateful smile as he leaves the room with his wife and sister, feeling infinitely more at peace. If Obi-Wan and Dooku can find peace with Qui-Gon, they will both be free of whatever emotions are tying them to his death. Even as Sith, they know how important it is to find peace. Idiots. How can they think they know everything? Cowards. They're not heroes. They're not even close. The cloaked figure snarls, slamming down a day-top ad displaying a news report. In big bold letters the headline reads, Galaxy saved, Skywalker and Kenobi to the rescue. The article itself is filled with lauding words directed to the pair along with the infamous Count Dooku. It could almost be hero worship, and she loathes it. This isn't what she had expected. And the Jedi, like the morons they are, had gone along with it. What are they even thinking, accepting Sith into their fold, especially backstabbing ones like Dooku of all people? They've blinded the galaxy, faking to be the heroes just to get the attention. No. This cannot go on. It shouldn't have happened in the first place, and she's going to put an end to it. She'll show everyone that they have been playing the galaxy. She's not a hero, she doesn't want to be, but she refuses to sit back and watch this. The adoration being paid to Dooku is simply nauseating. Just weeks ago, he was being declared a criminal, and now? The media is worshipping the ground he walks on. It will serve them right when he stabs them in the back, because she knows that's what will happen. After all, is that not what he's been preaching for so many years? Maybe he won't do it tomorrow. Or the day after. It doesn't matter. She is patient. She will wait and watch until he shows his hand. She nearly laughs aloud at the thought. Who is she trying to fool? She doesn't want to play the hero. The galaxy could burn, and she'd rejoice. It doesn't care about people like her. It never has. Even if Dooku is trying to be the nobleman, the irony of that, she will make him fall. She will force his hand, push him to do something which will make everyone remember who he truly is. And then, she'll disappear into the shadows, vengeance complete while the galaxy burns around him. He deserves nothing less. He's a traitor, just like Skywalker and Kenobi. They abandoned every ideal they claimed to hold by turning to the dark side. Not that she has any room to judge, the power is addictive, she'll admit that much, but the hypocrisy gets to her. Or maybe it's simply because of who they are. It doesn't matter. She won't try to analyze, rationalize, or justify her motives. They are what they are, and she'll act upon them. This is what she wants, and this is what she's going to get. She has everything she needs: knowledge, experience, and accomplices. Yes, Dooku can burn with his new protégés, and she'll enjoy every second of it. Dooku is not in a good mood. He came to Coruscant to meet his master True, but he had hoped to enlist Kenobi to help him destroy Sidious. Obviously, that won't be happening anymore, not since he's dead. Dooku is not happy that a bounty hunter was able to kill the Jedi Master. It shouldn't have happened, but unless the Jedi are up to something, it did. So now, he must find an alternative. He paces through the secret alleys in Coruscant, trying to decide upon his next course of action. It shouldn't be hard to find help, but what he really needs is a Jedi. Someone who will be able to fight a Sith Lord and emerge the victor. He wants someone with skill. Kenobi fit all his requirements, finding a replacement will be challenging. As he walks, the Force seems to nudge him in a certain direction. It's always guided him in the past, so he chooses to follow its direction. Perhaps he will find an answer to his quandary. When he senses a strong Force signature ahead, he pauses, reaching out. A Jedi. What would a Jedi be doing in this area? And he recognizes it. Skywalker. Dooku probes him delicately, careful to keep himself masked to avoid recognition. Maybe this is an answer. Kenobi trained Skywalker, and while he has little interest in the boy, he could still prove useful. Yes, this might be perfect. Maintaining an outward sense of calm, Dooku strides closer, stopping in the shadows as he observes Skywalker sitting on a crate, head resting in his hands. Curious. The boy seems upset about something, probably Kenobi's death. Understandable, but it's not the Jedi way. Jedi are supposed to be calm and composed, and Skywalker seems to possess neither of those traits. It's why Dooku has never has an interest in him. He's too unpredictable, too emotional. He doesn't know what potential Qui-Gon ever saw in him. Kenobi was the epitome of everything the Jedi symbolized, with perfect emotional control, using and valuing logic over emotions. Skywalker is his opposite in every way. It's surprising really, how a Jedi like Kenobi could have trained him. He has no control. It's a wonder the Council even tolerates him. As he's standing there, Skywalker's astromech droid whistles something. Skywalker shifts before muttering, "Not yet, R2. I don't want to go back." He sounds like he's been crying. Dooku can sense a vortex of pain and grief swirling around him and presses his lips together, holding back a scathing remark. Skywalker has no control whatsoever. It's simply disgraceful. He can understand grieving over losing someone, he's done it himself, but never at the cost of his emotional control. He doesn't want to work with Skywalker, it would not be ideal, but he can still do it. Kenobi trained Skywalker, he clearly saw something in the boy, the same thing that Qui-Gon had seen, but Dooku doesn't know what it is they, and the rest of the Jedi, admire. Skywalker is not an ideal Jedi. He has too many flaws, but he's never criticized for them. He gets praise instead of condemnation. But to destroy Sidious, Dooku needs someone with skill. Skywalker might lack the emotional control of Kenobi, but he has enormous potential. Perhaps he could get the boy to join him and teach him what the rest of the Jedi have overlooked. Emotions have power, but they must be controlled. And, he muses to himself, he could derail his master's plans by getting the boy on his side. If Skywalker is against Sidious, he'll never join him. It's perfect. Dooku slowly walks forward, gracefully stepping from where he'd observed Skywalker silently. He gets the attention of the droid, just as he'd expected. It whistles frantically, pulling the attention of its owner away from his misery. Skywalker looks up, his expression becoming comically stunned when he sees Dooku. The Sith has been watching him for many minutes, and he didn't even realize it. Pathetic. Skywalker reaches out, touching Dooku's force presence before pulling away. He can't even trust his eyes, although Dooku can understand his surprise. He's the head of the Separatists, and it would be suicide for him to come to Coruscant under normal circumstances, but everything is far from normal. It takes a moment for Skywalker to get over his shock and find his voice. "Dooku," he hisses, narrowing his eyes, "what are you doing here?" "Taking a pleasure trip, probably." "This is a surprise, Skywalker," Dooku replies, calmly, "though I must say it's not an unwelcome one." Not really. It surprises him to find a Jedi so far from the temple. He'd planned an elaborate ruse to draw Kenobi away, but this is even better. "Just say whatever you want to say, unless you're planning to kill me, in which case, go right ahead and try," retorts Skywalker. His tone betrays his utter loathing and hatred for Dooku. And he's too confident for his own good. If Dooku really wanted, he could easily kill the boy. He's alone, far from the temple, and too lost in his own emotions to put up a fight. It's no wonder his master wants the boy as an apprentice. He has so much raw potential and power, but he just doesn't know how to use it. He's too emotional, and that's something that will lead him directly to the dark side at Sidious's side. Dooku decides to go ahead and start with Kenobi. The mention of his dead former master will be enough to keep the boy off balance. That's what he wants. If Dooku keeps him confused, he won't realize he's being manipulated. "It's such a pity that Kenobi is dead," he begins in a thoughtful tone. "He was a very fine man. Honorable. A worthy opponent. I had dearly hoped he might join me." And those were all the reasons he'd wanted Kenobi. The Jedi Master was exceedingly clever, a force to be reckoned with in battle. That's what he'd appreciated about him most. He used logic, unlike Skywalker, who simply rushes into things without a plan. Just as Dooku had expected, Skywalker bristles, anger surging. "Don't you dare talk about Obi-Wan," he snarls. "He was a much better man than you ever could be. He would never join you. He's not a traitor." Insults. He thinks he can distract Dooku. Not likely. Dooku is used to people insulting him. That strategy won't work. Really, he would have thought Kenobi taught Skywalker about controlling his anger. Anger is a path to the dark side. He raises an eyebrow slightly. Skywalker is too immature and childish. "You can't be too certain about that," he replies. "Kenobi never heard my most recent proposal, and I dare say that he would have joined me so we could put a quick end to the war." Of that, he feels comfortable. Kenobi may not have liked it, but he was a sensible man, and if he could end the war without betraying his Jedi morals, he would. "Considering that you started and are prolonging the war, I really don't see how or why you would suddenly end it," growls Skywalker, rising. Dooku can see the anger burning in his eyes. He has no doubt that Skywalker can hear the seductive call of the dark side which is humming from his anger. As a Sith, he can see things that the Jedi can't. He can feel how the dark side responds to Skywalker. He's not as close to the light as the Jedi hope. "You have much to learn, young Skywalker," Dooku chides with a light sigh, "and since your master cannot help me, perhaps you might be interested." "I will never be a Sith," he hisses, appalled. He is a strong conviction, but what good is it if he can't even control himself? He's slipping down a dark path from which there is no turning back. He's too impulsive, itching for a fight. Dooku can see him reaching for his lightsaber. That will not do. He has no intention of fighting the boy. "No, I wasn't going to ask you to become a Sith," Dooku reassures him, since he clearly needed to hear it. At least it's understandable this time. Dooku is a Sith. Skywalker is a Jedi. Why would a Sith talk to a Jedi if not to turn him? Skywalker comes to an abrupt halt, raising an eyebrow questioningly, confusion radiating off of him. Good, so Dooku has his complete attention. He should be more receptive to his words now. I don't like what my master has planned for the galaxy, Dooku tells him bluntly. He needs to understand the truth, and the only way to tell someone like him is through bluntness. It is not what I had in mind when I joined him. He's getting out of control, and I want to stop him. He can almost see Skywalker's surprise mingled with faint curiosity. That's good, but by the Force, he's an open book. He could never take an enemy by surprise. It's just another reason Dooku has to mourn the loss of Kenobi. So, what do you want from me? Skywalker asks finally. At least he understands that Sith wants something. Assistance, he responds immediately, because really, there's nothing else he needs more right now, at least not from Skywalker. I could never defeat my master in a duel alone. I need someone who is skilled. He carefully emphasizes the word. There are few people who match up to his caliber as a duelist, but Kenobi and Skywalker are two of them. And you thought that someone would be Obi-Wan? Skywalker concludes. Dooku doesn't miss the way he nearly stumbles over the name, flinching as he says it. It must have been truly traumatic for him to lose someone to whom he has such a close attachment. Dooku doesn't comment, simply opting to nod in confirmation. The troubled and dare he say vulnerable look on the boy's face doesn't fade. Did you kill Obi-Wan? He finally demands, expression twisting, betraying his uncertainty. No. He's not that stupid or manipulative. Dooku shakes his head. My master has tried to have Kenobi killed numerous times, but no. This time was not one of those times. Not that I am aware of. If the bounty hunter was hired, it was by another party. He suspects there might be a conspiracy of sorts involved, but he doesn't voice those thoughts. It's only a suspicion. He has no evidence. Okay. So, let's say I believe you. Why are you on Coruscant? Skywalker questions hesitantly. To meet my master, replies Dooku immediately, and I had been hoping to recruit Kenobi to help me while I was here. Something shifts in the boy's expression. He might not be willing to admit it, even to himself, but he does believe Dooku. That's probably because he's not shielding himself in the Force, so Skywalker will sense his sincerity. What's your master planning? There's a hint of wariness on Skywalker's face as he asks. Normally, Dooku would refuse to explain the details, but the situation is dire enough that he's willing to take risks. Besides, if he can disrupt Sidious's plans by making Skywalker wary of him, so much the better. He intends to destroy the Jedi Order and create a Sith Empire, Dooku explains. I'd hoped to disrupt his plans, but I've been unsuccessful. I now feel the only way to stop him is to destroy him altogether. He can almost see the myriad of thoughts, betrayed by Skywalker's emotions. Surprise. Suspicion. Determination. Who's your master? He finally queries. Dooku isn't ready to reveal that much yet. It's too much, too soon. I'll tell you, but I want your agreement to help me first. I don't want you to simply take the information to the Jedi Council. They're inefficient. That's why I left the Order. It wasn't to join the Sith. It was to find them. How can I be certain that you don't just want my help to eliminate your master so you can take his place as Emperor of the Galaxy? Demands Skywalker harshly. A logical conclusion. It would appear that the boy does have his share of cleverness. Because I'm willing to tell you all his plans. Dooku carefully chooses his words. He cannot say something which will trigger Skywalker into becoming unreceptive. I wanted to fix the Jedi Order and the Republic, not destroy them. Both have become corrupt and complacent. That must change. I still can't be certain you're not lying to me, Skywalker points out, crossing his arms, something akin to stubbornness on his face. Dooku sighs lightly. Must he be like that? Kenobi had a far better way with words. I can tell you that the Republic will never win this war. If I can't stop Sidious, the Republic and Jedi Order will fall, he finally admits. Sidious. So, that's his name? Skywalker muses thoughtfully, a skeptical look on his face as he continues. Do you really think that the Jedi won't be able to defeat two Sith? Does he really not understand, or is he trying to be deliberately aggravating? Dooku isn't certain. How could the boy possibly think that Sidious is planning to single-handed take down the Republic? The very thought is laughable. You don't understand. Sidious controls both sides of the war. Every single participant in the war other than the Jedi are under his rule. Dooku carefully stresses his words, hoping that Skywalker will accept the truth, disheartening though it may be. Skywalker narrows his eyes. Not the clones. They're loyal to their Jedi commanders. The clones most of all. It's fortunate that he brought them up. They're loyal to the Republic above all, Dooku reminds him, and they can be controlled. They appear to have free will, and they do unless Sidious gives them a pre-programmed order. Dooku knows the moment Skywalker understands from the expression of horror on his face. The clones will turn on the Jedi, he mumbles faintly. Dooku dips his head in a graceful nod. If I can't stop Sidious, the clones will be used to wipe out the Jedi. Horror spirals into the force around him, and Dooku refrains from making any biting comments about his lack of control. That would not help them form an alliance, distasteful though it is. Of force, he mumbles, stepping backwards, Rex and Cody and all of them. Curious. He seems to care greatly about them. Dooku suspects that Kenobi does too. It was likely part of the plan to leave the Jedi feeling hopelessly lost and betrayed when their own men shoot them down. I'll do it, Skywalker says firmly, and Dooku can see that he means it. Perfect. Relief blooms within him. It would seem that Skywalker is, in fact, capable of putting aside his own personal feelings if necessary, for Dooku has no delusions that the boy dislikes him immensely. There is something else you must know, he says finally, weighing the words carefully. If nothing else, Skywalker must know what the future could have held and could still hold if he doesn't tread with care. Yes. Sidious, he has an interest in you, Skywalker, Dooku tells him. He intends to make you his apprentice, and I suspect he will have me killed. For such is the way of the Sith. He'd hoped to have the chance to eliminate Sidious before then, but if he plays it wrong, he knows that Skywalker will become his executioner. The boy looks at him oddly before laughing. Seriously? I'm never going to turn to the dark side and betray the Jedi. So much conviction, but so little understanding. In this, at least, his faith is sorely misplaced. You could, Dooku disagrees confidently, you have a lot of anger in you, more so now than I've ever seen. Anger leads to the dark side. Fear leads to the dark side. And my master is confident that you will fall. He's wrong, insists Skywalker, though Dooku can sense his unease. There's something dark there, a memory or action, perhaps. He's not nearly as untainted by the dark side as Dooku had thought. He's used it before. No, Dooku replies, he has plans for everything, and I know he's been working on you, but that's neither here nor there. My point is that for you to help me, Sidious cannot suspect anything. That's why I'd initially wanted Kenobi. I'm afraid you will have to fake your death. He'd given this a lot of thought, and what could have worked for Kenobi, can also work for Skywalker, perhaps even more so. Skywalker is exceedingly emotional, and he's very unbalanced right now with Kenobi's death. I can't do that, objects Skywalker. You must, insists Dooku firmly, if you do, then we'll be one step ahead. It's crucial that he not think I've captured you. If you disappear, what would happen? The council might assume you left without telling anyone because you're upset over your master's death, but after a while, they'll probably think you were captured. Sidious will order me to find you, capture you. It would not be an ideal situation. It could compromise my plans. He hadn't intended to explain his reasoning, but Skywalker clearly needed to hear it. Sometimes, he seems to majorly lack common sense. Dooku knows that the boy will go along with it. Normally, he might have a different plan, but right now, he's too emotionally unstable and vulnerable. Dooku couldn't have picked a better time to ask his assistance. Skywalker will help him, and Sidious will fall. Furious isn't even a strong enough word to describe the all-encompassing rage which Sidious feels. He has no idea how his plan failed so spectacularly, but if he were to hazard a guess, he'd blame Dooku. The physical injuries were fairly minor, all things considered, but if not for the quick actions of those pathetic bounty hunters and Master Kenobi, he would have been dead. It hurts his ego far more than anything to know that he's now in debt to that Jedi. While he heard the rumors of Skywalker's death, he's certain that his future apprentice is quite alive, probably in hiding, or worse, a prisoner of Dooku. Would Tyrannus do that and not tell him? Yes, Sidious is certain that he would, for treachery is the way of the Sith. The most important question is what caused this sudden revolt? He doesn't have any evidence, but he's certain that Dooku was involved. His apprentice will definitely be on the receiving end of an interrogation. And now that Sidious is out of the medical center, he can grace Dooku with an unpleasant, though likely expected, call. With no small amount of relish, he enters the frequency into the personal, untraceable, COMM. Dooku answers almost immediately, as though he was expecting it, as well he should have been. Lord Tyrannus, I am sure you heard of the unfortunate incident, Sidious states flatly, making no effort to conceal the fury in his tone. I did, my master, Dooku replies, bowing his head submissively. What have you determined about it? Sidious demands. A dark Jedi came to my attention, the Count explains. I wished to see how he might handle the situation, but he went too far. His orders were to cause no harm, and when he failed, I eliminated him. Sidious narrows his eyes, the Force humming around him. Dooku isn't lying, but he's not exactly telling the truth either. It's frustrating that he can't force the truth out of his wayward apprentice. Well, no matter. If Dooku wanted him dead, he wouldn't be foolish enough to hire an assassin to do it. Have you heard the news of Skywalker? He queries, gauging the Count's reaction. The expected distaste flickers across his face. Yes, Master, he confirms, just as Sidious has anticipated. He lets the silence drag on enough to hopefully make Dooku uneasy. Did you capture him? No, Master, Dooku replies. Truth. Well, that's not exactly what Sidious had anticipated, and the Force hums with warning, though for what, he's unsure. Do you know where he is? Open-ended enough that a lie can be sensed. He hopes. No, Master, the Count answers again. Sidious scowls, because he's convinced that's not the full truth. But maybe he's being too paranoid. It's not impossible that Skywalker fled to nurse his wounds and grief in private. Maybe he's reading too much into this situation. I want him found, Sidious hisses, disconnecting the call. He loathes that he was unable to twist his chosen one's mind in his most vulnerable moment, pouring sympathy and affection on him when his former master was presumably dead. Personally, Sidious always doubted it. He's tried to kill Kenobi far too many times to believe he could possibly fall victim to a simple bounty hunter. No. That irritating man was still alive, and it's all good and well, because Sidious knows that Skywalker was unaware of his former master's fate. He needs the boy to be here, so that now that the truth has come out, he can whisper sweet poison to him, turning him against the only man who can keep him with the Jedi. Without Kenobi to help him, Skywalker is all but guaranteed to fall. It's all too easy, and Sidious almost wishes it had been a greater challenge to take the Jedi's chosen one and turn him against them. Almost. Several days. It's been several days, and he's heard no word of Skywalker. Dooku has also remained silent, and the reason for that is beyond him. Sidious wouldn't be surprised if his apprentice is plotting against him, for thus is the way of the Sith. Perhaps it's time to give Dooku another call. The Count won't answer anything directly, but Sidious will still be able to discern his probable intentions or plans. Motioning to his guards to ensure he's not disturbed, Sidious withdraws his secret, private communicator and enters Dooku's frequency. He answers almost immediately, a sure sign that he must be in his office or at least not too distracted. Or maybe he doesn't want his master to become suspicious, Sidious is not certain. Lord Tyrannus, he begins darkly, picking and choosing his words with caution. Even though Dooku bowed as normal and nothing in his attitude indicates that he's plotting treason, Sidious can sense that something is amiss in the Force. I have heard rumors that Skywalker has killed himself, but I know he still lives. I have heard nothing, Dooku replies quietly, obviously referring to the latter part of the statement. The rumors of Skywalker's death have spread like wild, and while he hasn't personally looked, Sidious has heard that the speculations as to his whereabouts have swept through the hollow news. I do not know where he has gone, Sidious continues in a slow, measured tone, even as he probes outwards with the Force, but I want you to find him. Do not fail me, Lord Tyrannus. I want you to capture Skywalker at any cost. He pauses slightly, considering his options. If he's right, and Dooku does indeed have Skywalker, then he must be vigilant. If necessary, you can use Kenobi to draw him out of hiding. That man has been a thorn in my side since the beginning, and I would not be upset if he met an unfortunate fate. For all intents and purposes, that's an order that Dooku have Kenobi eliminated once and for all. It's not something which he expects the Count will do, and if he doesn't, he'll act on his own. More than likely, Dooku will try and succeed if he has Skywalker to recruit Kenobi to his cause. They'll launch an attack on Sidious personally. He's not concerned. He has many cards which he can use to divide them, singling out the boy to make him his own. I understand, my master, answers Dooku, bowing his head. Master Yoda, you sent for me. Ahsoka queries, seating herself before the Grand Master of the Order. It's been 2 days since Obi-Wan returned from Naboo, and she saw the new Sith, 2 days in which she's agonized over the secret Anakin entrusted her with before his departure. Every time she's thought about it, she's reached the same conclusion: she won't tell Obi-Wan the truth, because Anakin trusted her, and frankly, she's furious with her Grand Master. Wish to speak with you I do about a replacement master, Yoda declares unperturbedly, ears twitching as he looks up at her. Until find Skywalker we do, another master you should have. Ahsoka does her best not to scowl. I don't want another master, she gripes. It's only been a couple weeks. Can't I wait longer before making a decision? Wait you may, Yoda agrees immediately, studying her with an expression that seems far too knowing. Volunteered to accept you, Masters Kenobi and PLO have. A choice you will have to make. She exhales slowly, closing her eyes for a moment in a failed attempt to locate a semblance of calm. She feels far too edgy right now, and the only thing which might rectify that is news from Anakin. If I must choose, she says finally, I would pick Master PLO. PLO was the one who brought her to the temple as a youngling, and she's not ashamed to admit being attached to him. Since he was not allowed to take her as a Padawan, she knows the feeling is mutual. While she knows Obi-Wan well, she's too angry at him for the deception to even consider him a viable candidate. That's something she'll have to deal with, but for now, she'll continue ignoring him. Yoda hums quietly. Worried you are for your master, he states suddenly. What? She blurts out, eyes widening. I mean, of course, I am. No one knows anything. She lets her voice trail off before she accidentally says something she doesn't mean to. She never discussed with Obi-Wan how he felt since it was obvious that he was upset, and nor did she ask about the Council's opinions. Unknown his whereabouts still are, Yoda comments. Is it just Ahsoka, or is he really studying her very carefully? Captured or in hiding he is. Well, okay. So much for his death being believable. Surprised you are not, the Grand Master continues, sounding as though he's confirmed a suspicion. Knew you did that. Dead your master was not. Told you he did. Ahsoka scrambles to come up with something to say to cover for Anakin, but she doesn't know what she could say which wouldn't make the situation worse. Maybe it's time for some of the truth. Yes, she confesses finally. I don't know where he was going, but he didn't want me to tell anyone. Can you not tell Master Kenobi? Yoda studies her, ears twitching slightly. Tell no one I shall, he decides at last. Confess the truth Skywalker must himself. Thank you, Master, she whispers, heart pounding. She doesn't want to betray Anakin's trust, to prove that she's incapable of concealing something as crucial as this. They sit in silence for several long moments. Visit Senator Amidala you should, Yoda suddenly tells her. Friends she is with Skywalker. There's a weird emphasis on the word friends, which makes Ahsoka wonder if Yoda also suspects that there's something more between the two of them. She wouldn't be surprised if he does. He notices things like that. Of course, Master, she readily agrees, smiling slightly as she rises and bows before taking her leave from his quarters. It's later in the afternoon, so she assumes that Padme will be at her apartment. If she doesn't know the truth, Ahsoka wants to tell her. She definitely deserves it. She lands on the platform unnoticed and hops out of the speeder, approaching the front door. 3PO opens it almost immediately. It is so good to see you, he rambles. Mistress Padme is inside, working on some documents for the Senate. Thank you, 3PO, Ahsoka replies politely, slipping past him and entering the living room where Padme is sitting, a multitude of data pads in front of her. Hello, Senator. To her credit, Padme doesn't seem too startled by Ahsoka's appearance, face lighting into a smile as she rises. Ahsoka, I'm glad to see you. You as well, Ahsoka answers. I wanted to see how you were doing. You know, with everything going on with Master Kenobi and then with Anakin. Padme's smile dims, but only slightly, though it seems much more strained now. Yes, she murmurs, sighing heavily. I'm well enough. I won't pretend to understand why Master Kenobi did what he did, seeing how much of an impact it's had on all of us. Ahsoka's good mood practically vanishes as the pangs of hurt spear through her again. She drops gracelessly into a chair as Padme seats herself on the couch once more. The dull ache is tearing at her, and part of her wants to break into sobs at the unfairness of it all. Why did he have to do it? Why did he have to lie to them? Even Anakin had the courtesy of warning her first. I get that it was for a mission, for the good of the Republic, but he lied to us. Ahsoka bursts out, horrified to feel tears welling up. He's hardly said a word to me about it even though he's been back for a few days. I mean I get it. He's being distracted by the things with Anakin, but I don't even know. Padme exhales slowly, compassion on her face. It's alright to feel like that, Ahsoka. Don't tell yourself it's not. I'm going to have words with Obi-Wan about this, because if not for what he did, Anakin would be here. Ahsoka doesn't miss the way she hesitates at the end of her sentence, and immediately becomes suspicious. You know, she states simply, a feeling of overwhelming relief rushing through her. You know about him. Padme smiles slightly and nods. I'm glad he told you too. Do you know anything? Probably not more than you, she confesses with a shrug. Maybe even less. Come here, Padme offers, patting the seat beside her. Ahsoka gratefully rises and moves to sit next to her friend, pulling her legs up to get more comfortable. He's going to come back, Padme all but promises. No force in the galaxy short of death could keep him away. Ahsoka can't help but smile at her words. I know, she agrees softly. I know. Padme wraps an arm around her, hugging her to her side. Do you have any suspicions about what he may be doing? Ahsoka ponders the question before shaking her head. I have no idea. He didn't say anything which would give me a clue. All I could gather was that it's presumably important to the future of the Republic. The senator nods thoughtfully, but before she can say anything, 3PO enters the room and announces that Obi-Wan is here to talk to Padme. In a flash, Ahsoka can feel herself closing off, and next to her, Padme stiffens almost imperceptibly. "Send him in," she instructs quietly, exchanging a look with Ahsoka. Without exchanging even a word, they manage to silently agree to protect Anakin's secret and chew out Obi-Wan for his deception. After a few moments of tense silence, Obi-Wan steps into the room, none of the surprise at Ahsoka's presence visible on his face, though Ahsoka can still clearly feel it. "Master Kenobi, it's good to see you," Padme says politely, though she doesn't stand to greet him. She has what Ahsoka would term a politician's mask affixed on her face. Obi-Wan nods. "I wanted to speak to you," he replies, gaze lingering on Ahsoka. "I didn't expect to see you here," he adds, to Ahsoka. "Please, have a seat," Padme offers. "Tell me what's on your mind." He sinks onto the chair, and for a second, Ahsoka can see a flicker of pain and grief on his face which is gone when he looks up. It sends a pang of guilt through her which she squashes. Much as she might dislike what she has to do, she won't betray Anakin's trust. "I know you were close with Anakin," Obi-Wan begins haltingly, his words obviously directed mainly at Padme. "I never expected my actions to have this result." Padme's expression hardens. "Yes," she concedes coolly, "I'm sure you didn't, but you used him. Do you have any idea how that would have made him feel? How do you think he would have reacted when he learned the truth? He trusted you more than anyone not to betray him, not to hurt him, and that's exactly what you did. Do you really expect he would forgive you as though nothing happened?" Obi-Wan actually flinches. "I was going to explain it to him when I got back," he protests. "I did it for the Chancellor." Ahsoka doesn't quite manage to hold back her snort and squirms when the attention is suddenly focused on her. "He won't care," she finally states firmly. "You are much more important to him than the Chancellor." She pauses. "Were," she corrects quietly, because she can't say that Anakin will still feel the same about Obi-Wan after this. "Ahsoka's right," agrees Padme emphatically, and there's a momentary, awkward silence. "I know you make a mistake," she tells him softly, yet firmly, "but that doesn't absolve you. I'll forgive you once you make this right." Obi-Wan stares at her, a hint of confusion flickering across his face. Is he dead? The question isn't quite as casual as he'd probably hoped, because Ahsoka can clearly hear the hopelessness in the words. She remains silent, uncertain how to answer without actually revealing the truth. Padme leans forward, an intent, serious look on her face. "What does your heart tell you?" There's a hint of a wistful smile on her face, as if she realizes she's echoing something which no one else is privileged enough to know. Obi-Wan looks down and doesn't answer. Maybe, Ahsoka realizes, he can't even answer that question. In his place, she doesn't think she could either. "No," he finally whispers, even though she doesn't think he really means it. "No," Padme agrees quietly. "I do not think he is either." "Nor do I," adds Ahsoka, voice barely above a whisper. "Then why?" Obi-Wan doesn't need to finish the question for Ahsoka to know what he's thinking. Why is he gone? Why did this have to happen? "That is something only he can tell you," Ahsoka answers, sharing a look with Padme. She, too, wishes that she knew the answers, that she knew what it was that took her master away, but she has to have faith in the Force that he'll be all right, and that he'll be able to tell her. They sit there silently for many long moments, each lost in their own thoughts and remembrances. "Since you're both here," Padme says at last, "suppose we have dinner together." Ahsoka grins at her, and Obi-Wan nods in agreement. They'll stay together for now, three friends who mutually care for Anakin and fear for his future and fate. Somehow, Ahsoka doesn't think it will be long before she starts getting answers. Less than a week later, Obi-Wan is kidnapped from the temple. Obi-Wan shifts in his crouched position inside the ventilation shaft, silently cursing the necessity of hiding in such a cramped place. But really, this was their only option. It's much tenser now that Anakin is gone to fulfill his part of the plan. They could have all gone in there at once, but much as Obi-Wan didn't want to admit it, it was best that Anakin provide some sort of distraction. He's not entirely convinced that Sidious bought the act, but it's better than nothing. Closing his eyes, he reaches out to the Force as unobtrusively as possible. The Force flows smoothly around them, but for a moment, he can almost see the shifting of the future. What they've done will forever change fate, regardless of the outcome of the fight. And then, blurred images flash before Obi-Wan's mind as the Force warns him of a previously unexpected danger. He sees, for a moment, rows of clones marching up to the temple, shooting down all the Jedi in their path, and he fears that they've made a terrible mistake. Instead of stopping the dark future, did they just make it worse? Count. The urgency in Obi-Wan's voice draws Dooku's attention instantly. What's wrong? Dooku whispers. I saw something, Obi-Wan answers, voice just as low. For a second, I saw the clones attacking the Jedi. I don't. Why would they do that if we defeat Sidious? Dooku stills, and Obi-Wan can't even get the slightest hint as to what he's thinking or feeling. Maybe I was mistaken, he finally admits slowly. Maybe I was too confident when I thought that we could defeat Sidious. If we fail, I have no doubt that he will try to destroy the Jedi immediately to prevent any backlash. Couldn't you have mentioned it earlier? Hisses Obi-Wan with no small amount of aggravation. We're taking a huge risk if we go ahead, and we can't reasonably pull out now. The Count gives him a sharp look. I didn't think it was necessary to mention something I felt would not even be within the realm of possibility. What can we do? He demands, shifting to a slightly more comfortable position. We could never get more Jedi support in time. No, Dooku declares firmly, we are not going to contact the Jedi, but I have a frequency which should theoretically deactivate all the clones' chips. If we broadcast it, then we should cover up that loose end. Obi-Wan doesn't answer, instead pulling out his COMM link and calling R2. The droid answers almost immediately with a flurry of beeps and whistles he can only half understand. R2, we need your help, he explains in a hushed voice. I'm going to send you my council clearance codes which should allow you to transfer a frequency which I'll also send you to every clone in the galaxy. It's extremely crucial that every clone experience it. It's not completely audible, Dooku adds while R2 beeps what must be an agreement. Can the chips be reactivated? Obi-Wan queries as he types his council clearance code into the COMM link, sending it to the faithful astromech. Yes, but only on a mechanical basis, the Count tells him. If this works, the Kaminoans were certain that it would because Sidious wanted a failsafe, then there should be no way for him to reactivate them unless he does it individually. Obi-Wan feels himself relax, as the initial concern drains away. Regardless of what Dooku or even Anakin might say, if there is a chance the clones will turn on the Jedi, Obi-Wan refuses to leave the Jedi open to a surprise attack and destruction, not if he can stop it. He passes the COMM link to Dooku, who carefully enters the appropriate information. R2 whistles again as if to say that he received it. Good, Obi-Wan says, send out the frequency immediately. The droid beeps in acknowledgement as Obi-Wan ends the call. How certain are you that this will deactivate the chips? Dooku doesn't even hesitate. Fairly, but I brought a separate device which will definitely work. The only drawback is that it has to be used individually. It's the truth, and Obi-Wan no longer senses the same unease within the Force, but there's still something else. Will it hurt the clones? The Count shakes his head. No, but the frequency will cause mild discomfort while it plays. Good, breathes Obi-Wan, leaning slightly against the ventilation shaft behind him. Good. He would hate to be accidentally involved in harming any of the clones. They're people who shouldn't be tampered with against their will. Now that they're safe, Obi-Wan can focus on the real enemy in front of them, Sidious. Commander Fox, one of the Coruscanti Guard, might not fight in endless battles like his brothers, but he still thinks that he has the same finely tuned senses as many of them. And right now, his senses are tingling with warning, which is odd in and of itself. This has happened only a handful of times, all of which preceded something major, so he assumes this will be no different. He turns to comment to one of the other nearby troopers, when his COMM link beeps. He pulls it out, and instead of seeing anything, there's a strange, screechy static which sending a spearing pain through his head for a split second before it ends. Fox blinks in confusion as he sees the other troopers getting the same recording. And he feels different somehow, but he can't quite put his finger on how. What was that? He says to no one in particular, seeing similar expressions of confusion all around him. It was ranked important, but the message was simply bizarre. I have no idea, one of the other troopers murmurs, but something strange seems to be afoot. I'll see if I can't figure out, Fox decides, messaging some of his other brothers. They all reply with answers in the affirmative, which is even stranger. I think everyone got it, he declares sometime later. It couldn't have simply been an accident. I think. Maybe we should contact the Jedi. Suggests someone. Just wait, suggests Fox slowly. We can't be certain that it's not simply a mistake, but someone should look into it. He waits silently, his sense of unease growing. Something is horribly wrong, and he doesn't know what. And then, his COMM link rings again, and Fox wonders if he's not simply being paranoid. He pulls it out, and a hooded figure appears. Execute Order 66. Inform all the clone commanders, the person rasps, tone sinister. Fox blinks, and then blinks again. He feels like he ought to know what that means, but he doesn't. What is Order 66? Fox asks carefully. The resulting silence very nearly scares him. The Jedi are traitors to the Republic, the figure cautions in a dark voice. They must be destroyed. As Chancellor, my word is law. This is an order, Commander. Fox is shaking his head almost before he finishes hearing the words. I'm sorry, sir, but Chancellor or not, you do not have the authority to wipe out thousands of people without a trial. We can arrest them, but we cannot execute them. He knows that what he said is the truth, and he will stand by his morals. The snarl which comes through the connection sends a chill down his spine, and the next thing he knows, he's gasping for air which won't come. Do it! Hisses the Chancellor. He's the traitor. Fox manages to gasp out, fumbling to disconnect the COMM. He falls to his knees as the pressure on his throat suddenly disappears. After allowing himself a few precious seconds to breathe, he scrambles to his feet. We must contact the Jedi immediately and go to the Senate to find the Chancellor. Somehow, he thinks it's already too late. It's been 2 sleepless nights since Padme heard the news of Obi-Wan's kidnapping, and she has yet to reach any reasonable conclusion. Even after knowing Anakin so well, he often remains something of a mystery. She knows that he's fiercely protective of everyone he cares for, which will currently include herself and Ahsoka, and to a lesser extent, the 501st. She doesn't know how he currently feels towards Obi-Wan, but Anakin had thought him dead anyways. Why ever Anakin left, it likely was because he wanted to protect her them from something. But what? What could he have learned which he deemed important enough to leave and masquerade as a Sith? Or is she looking at this all wrong? Maybe he is a Sith now. She's not sure, but she can't say that she'd be terribly shocked. Anakin is a wonderful person, but he had a violent temper at times, and the thought of him joining the Sith if he thought it would protect her or someone isn't too far-fetched. But Palpatine is someone Anakin has long considered a friend, something which Padme is less than happy about, and while she can't exactly condone his attempted murder of the Chancellor because she's positively certain that it was Anakin on Naboo, she can say that she's not entirely displeased either. Palpatine has been gathering too much power, and it's disturbing her and many other senators. But Anakin doesn't even care for politics, so whatever happened must be unrelated. So, she's still stuck with two questions, neither of which she can deduce the answers to. First, why did Anakin join Dooku? Was it of his own free will or was it by force? Second, why would Anakin try to kill Palpatine? Did he want to, or was it because of something else? That Obi-Wan was kidnapped would seem to indicate that Anakin must be a willing participant. Unless someone was in immediate danger, Anakin would never cave into blackmailing. Then, if Anakin is, in fact, willingly working with Dooku, Padme just needs to figure out why. And she's thought about it repeatedly without determining anything she didn't already know. She even talked to Sabe and Dorm about it, but neither were able to give her any new suggestions or ideas. Fine. Maybe she needs to wait and, of course, watch Palpatine very carefully. If something is wrong, maybe her observations alone will be enough to guide her to the right answer. They weren't. Padme had been expecting many things, but Palpatine being the Sith Lord behind the war and the blockade of Naboo certainly was not one of them. It only drives home how politicians can be deceitful and untrustworthy. As the Republic is unraveling around her, Padme can't help but feel distracted by concerns for Anakin. She hasn't seen him since he came to her apartment before leaving with Dooku, so she has no way of knowing where he is and how he's doing, especially since it's been a week since his expulsion from the Order. Well, he's not been branded a traitor, and she does know what he's doing, so maybe she can try calling his private COMM link? Padme doesn't know the exact time difference between Coruscant and Sereno, so she can only hope that it's not in the middle of the night there. It's during the afternoon break in the Senate now, which is good because she won't have to worry about being disturbed. Pulling out her COMM link, she enters Anakin's frequency and waits hopefully, heart pounding maybe a little faster than it ought to be. It's been so long, and she's missed her husband terribly. Trusting in the Force to keep him safe really isn't how she'd imagined her life would be, but it's a reality, and like it or not, she has to live with it. She knew the risks when she married him, and she's never, not even once, regretted it, even if she does dislike all the secrecy. The call connects, and Anakin's figure appears. He looks much better than when Padme last saw him, and despite the obvious tension in his body, he seems happy. Well, that's interesting. She really wonders what happened between him and Dooku, especially being as the last she knows, he hated the Count. Hello, Padme, Anakin greets her softly, his expression showing just how happy he is that she called. Ani, she whispers, relief flooding through her when she sees that he's well, or well considering the circumstances. I've been so worried about you. I know, he murmurs, smiling faintly. I didn't want to worry you, but I suppose you must know everything now. She nods. I know about Sidious and about what the council decided. Resentment flickers through his gaze, and some of his levity seems to fade. I don't want to talk about it, he states flatly, sighing. How have you been? I've been meaning to call you, but the timing has never quite worked out. Padme hums. Better now that I'm talking to you and can see that you're all right. She hesitates slightly. She's never really talked to Anakin much about her political concerns, just as he doesn't usually complain about his concerns regarding the war. But now, she wonders if they should change that. They don't have to hide anymore, and open communication will do them both a lot of good. Everything in the Senate is really stressful right now, she finally tells him. It's unbelievable how much control Palpatine got. If you had gone after him even months later, it might have been too late. It'll take us years to undo the damage he's done. Anakin makes a face. I should have realized something was wrong with him, he mumbles. Padme gives him a stern look. Ani, you can't blame yourself, she reproves him. He's an expert at manipulation, and you've known him since you were a child. I've known him much longer than you, so if anyone is at fault, it's me. I'm the one who put him in power. You can't blame yourself if I can't. Anakin retorts firmly. How did she know he was going to say that? How are you? She asks instead, turning the focus away to something else. I'm fine, he replies. Obi-Wan and I have probably finished sorting everything out, and Dooku has been helping us and Ahsoka learn more about the Force. Padme notices that he seems happier, more content even, and she has to wonder if meeting Dooku was a blessing in disguise, which is ironic considering who he is and what he's done. Good, she breathes with relief. Good. Be careful, Ani. I know you'll be hunting down Sidious, and it won't be easy. No, he agrees with a laugh, it won't be, but all of us are a formidable force together. We intend to go after him as a team. Anakin turns his head, as if he's looking at someone out of the transmission. I have to go soon. He sounds reluctant. It's okay, she reassures him. You can call me around the same time tomorrow. It's during my afternoon break right now. He brightens. I will, he promises. I love you, Angel. I love you too, Ani, she answers softly, and Anakin disconnects the call. Padme thinks that maybe we'll be alright. She has faith in Anakin's strength, and with Obi-Wan, Ahsoka, and Dooku, he'll be nearly invincible. Hopefully, it will be enough to destroy Sidious. She'd trusted in the Force until now to keep him safe. Why not have faith for a little longer? Maul has no idea how Sidious found him and his brother, Savage. They've been hiding out on a small, mostly abandoned world while they plan their next moves. They hadn't gotten far when suddenly, his former master showed up. Master, he gasps out, scrambling to kneel before the hooded figure. He's heard, of course, that Sidious was unmasked and forced to flee Coruscant. I was not expecting you to come here. For a long, chilling moment, Sidious doesn't speak. I have a proposal for you, my former apprentice, the Sith Master declares. Join me. Help me destroy Dooku and his cohorts, and I will let your brother live. Maul stiffens. He hates Sidious, but he knows that though he might be strong, Savage won't be powerful enough to survive in a duel against Sidious. Not yet. It's still too soon for them to destroy Sidious and his erstwhile apprentice, claiming their places as the true Sith Lords. And he also knows that this isn't a request, it's an order. As he hesitates, Sidious shifts forward, a sinister gleam in his yellow eyes. Kenobi is with them, he prompts, and you will be able to avenge yourself upon him. Maul closes his eyes for a moment. He hates Sidious, true, but he loathes Kenobi even more. He survived by sheer will and out of a desire for revenge. But still, and after I have accomplished your goals, what will you with me? He asks bluntly. Sidious cackles. I will be in need of trained individuals who can hunt down any surviving Jedi. If Skywalker joins me as is his fate, then you will be the head of the Inquisitors. And Maul can sense the truth of that in the Force. He doesn't need to talk to Savage, his brother will accept whatever he decides. It is time for him to make themselves a destiny which the galaxy will remember. He can play this game for now, secure in the knowledge that he won't be killed in the imminent future. Maybe he'll be able to figure out a viable way to take down Sidious. After all, treachery is the way of the Sith. I accept, my master, Maul intones, bowing his head. Good. There's so much satisfaction and dark glee in that one word that Maul almost regrets consenting. Almost. But he doesn't really want to die just yet, so he concedes that he'll have to begin playing the role of the obedient apprentice once again. Slowly and silently, he rises to his feet, looking expectantly at Sidious. He's not disappointed. Skywalker will become my right hand, my enforcer, the Sith Master tells them. I want him broken, and I want Dooku and Kenobi dead. Eliminate his Padawan too. Maul grins fearfully. It would be my pleasure, he hisses. Sidious smirks. You will have control of the droid armies with a rank on par with General Grievous. Do not fail me, he warns, or the consequences will be dire. With those words, he whirls and sweeps from the room. Are you serious, brother? Whispers Savage with no small amount of apprehension. We will get our revenge, Maul answers, deflecting the question. Is that not what you wanted? Savage nods. Of course, he agrees, skillfully covering up any misgivings. When the time is right, we will take the Empire for ourselves, Maul informs his brother when he knows that Sidious is too far away to hear. He can almost see that day, but he refuses to indulge himself in dreams when they're still far beyond his reach. Not now, but one day he will succeed, and together, he and his brother will take the legacy Sidious built for himself. That day will be the sweetest revenge.